I paid for my parents and sister to attend my wedding, but they never came. I exposed the truth and watched their lives fall apart. It said, "Your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life, a beautiful whirlwind of flowers and laughter and love." When I began to plan mine, that's what I had in mind. I reserved the space in advance. I discovered a little but lovely establishment that wasn't very costly. Fairy lights hanging in a rooftop garden. I made sure there were vegetarian selections for my sister and champagne for my mother when I carefully chose the menu. To make it simpler for my family to attend, I even rescheduled the wedding to be closer to my hometown. I trusted them when they stated they couldn't afford it. I did, of course. I volunteered to assist. I went over everything with them when they were still hesitant. Hotel rooms, flights, and clothes. I covered everything, including my sister's husband's, so she wouldn't have to go alone. I convinced myself that it was worthwhile. When it counts, that family is there. I was still unaware that for them, simply showing there meant something much different than it did for me. I got up early the morning of the wedding. My best friend with whom I grew up texted me to let me know that he and his partner had landed safely. We used to trade Pokemon cards on the sidewalk. They had paid for the motel and purchased their own tickets. Just glad to be there, no drama. For my parents' flight, I kept refreshing the airline app in the interim. Arrived on schedule. Well, I thought, they will arrive soon. As a nervous adolescent waiting for a date, I waited in the dressing room, looking out the window every few minutes. When the officiant arrived at 3 o'clock, she smiled softly and asked if we were ready. I said, "We might need a few more minutes. They may have encountered traffic. Their phones may have died." I made a call, directly to voicemail, called once more, no response. My hair was completed by the makeup artist. My bouquet was laying by the window when the photographer took these gentle pictures. I gave the camera a smile. I looked at my phone once more. Nothing has changed. My best friend leaned inside and knocked softly around 3:30. "They're asking if you want to start." My throat constricted as I gazed at him. I was to be escorted down the aisle by my father. He pledged. I forced a painfully wide smile and replied, "Let's just give it 5 more minutes." He pretended not to see my trembling hands, nodded, and waited with me. I gave another call. Voicemail. At 3:37, my phone finally rang. Mom's phone number. I nearly dropped it since I grabbed it so quickly. "Oh, hi, sweetie," said my mother. "Sorry, we couldn't make it." I blinked, unable to comprehend. What? What took place?" She chuckled as if I were being foolish. "Your sister's brother-in-law had a poetry reading. It was important to him and she didn't want to go alone. We had to support her. You know how family is." I remained silent. She brightened the stillness. "You understand, right?" My father's laughing voice could be heard in the background. "Maybe next time." I was trying to comprehend that my parents had selected a poetry reading for my wedding, as I stood there in my wedding gown, makeup applied, flowers in hand. Not even her reading of poetry. Her brother's of her husband. Nor had they bothered to inform me. They simply let me wait. Let me get into a panic. Just until the music should have started, let me imagine that they were lost, injured, or en route. They allowed me to cover all costs. To make things easy for them, I'll move the entire wedding, but it won't be significant enough. I put my phone away at 3:45 and took a deep breath. There was still my best friend, there silently, ready to grab me if I fell. "Would you," I said, my voice breaking, "walk me down?" He grinned, without hesitation. "Of course." So I walked hand in hand with the lad who used to construct tree forts with me in the backyard, and who, when my sister laughed too much to assist, once sewed a Barbie dress with me. The ceremony continued. Vows were exchanged. The rings were switched. People cheered and applauded. There was a cry. Through it all, I grinned. I grinned till my cheeks hurt. I smiled till I lost all sense of reality. Jokes at the reception made me laugh. The cake was cut by me. Under the string lights I had strung myself, I danced with my new husband. Something cold and hard settled deep into my chest. I went to the little desk by the window later that evening, after everyone had gone home, and the hotel room door had softly clicked shut behind us. I opened my laptop and sat down. Still wearing his suit jacket, My husband walked carefully across the room. He questioned, "Are you sure you want to do this?" With my fingers already tapping the computer, I nodded without turning to face him. "Yes." After a moment of hesitation, he remarked quietly, "You know, once you send it, there's no undo button." At that moment, I glanced up, gave him my full attention, and smiled for the first time that day. Everything is different tomorrow. I didn't turn around after hitting submit. It said that on your wedding night, you shouldn't reflect on the past. It is expected of you to look forward. Hope, new beginnings, and fresh beginnings. I made an effort. However, I couldn't help but think of my sister even as I cuddled up on my husband's side under the thick hotel blankets. As well as the years that preceded this. I was 3 planets away from my sister, who was 3 years older. In high school, she was the type of person who everyone wanted to be around. The one with the name-brand clothes, the glossy hair, and the easy chuckle that made you feel like you should be thankful for the opportunity to be beside her. She wasn't nice. Not to those who weren't a good fit. Not to those like me. I used to witness it in the corridors of the school. Here's a small smirk. There was a whisper behind his hand. At times, it was clear. When a person wearing shoes from a thrift store passed by, there was a loud false cough. At times, it was so informal and well-practiced that you hardly noticed. However, I took note. When she laughed at me, I also noticed it. Her parents referred to her as selective. They said she had standards. My mother once said, "You can't expect her to be friends with just anybody," as I sobbed after being excluded once more. My father went on to say, "You need to toughen up. Not everyone's cut out to be popular." As if I were to blame for not being as brilliant as she was. She wasn't like me. It was sufficient that I have a few close buddies. I didn't require attention. Growing up, my best friend lived next door. We built Lego towns and made up stories about superheroes who baked cookies instead of saving the world on more afternoons than I could remember. He excitedly brought over a doll he had won at a carnival when we were 8 years old, and we gave it the name Captain Sprinkles. It was the funniest thing ever, in my opinion. My folks didn't. My dad once said, "Boys like that usually turn out funny." Loud enough for me to hear. "It's no surprise that he prefers dolls to football," my mother joked during supper. It seemed nonchalant and dismissive, as if they were making a weather-related remark, rather than angry. Their sadness was not concealed. Not when I choose my quiet, eccentric pals. Not when I liked reading more than wearing cosmetics. Not when my sister left for another glitzy party and I stayed at home making posters for the science fair. I believe they suddenly stopped having high expectations of me and began having high expectations of her. My sister became their prize when we were teenagers. Queen of homecoming. Most likely to be successful. Every accomplishment she made was hailed as a badge of honor. Every act of brutality she committed was dismissed as a natural part of maturing. My parents hardly batted an eye when they discovered that she had been so severely bullying another daughter that she had changed schools. Saying, "Teenage drama. Girls are mean sometimes. It's normal." They hardly acknowledged my academic scholarship to a nearby college. No notification to the neighbors. No brunch. My mother remarked, "Well, you always were the quiet one," with a hazy smile that seemed to explain everything. I was already learning something significant at the time, but I was unaware of it. Love in our household was conditional. For her it was loud, but for me, it was silent. Performances, not perseverance, were the reason it appeared. And they stopped paying any attention to me when I quit entertaining them. The divide only grew wider as we grew older. Life seemed to be a stage that was made just for my sister. Internships she was not compensated for. Jobs she left behind. But the net was always there, regardless of how many times she fell. My parents are congratulating her, supporting her, and offering their apologies. I worked in the interim. I worked nights. I packed orders for my small internet business. Conveniently forgetting that I paid half of the mortgage. I paid the rent when they said I was fortunate to live at home. After that, I met my husband one summer. He was grounded, a couple of years older, and the first person I hadn't seen through my sister in a long time. He inquired about my work rather than hers. He didn't interrupt me. Instead, he listened when I spoke. He gave me hope that I might be sufficient. Just like me. I went down hard. I saw that when my sister first met him. The flash of curiosity, as fast as a flash on a camera. Her smile widened. When she laughed, she leaned a bit too near. She used to twirl her hair when she was attracted to someone. She later attempted to run into him without my presence. Still later, she sent him a message. A casual, well-practiced offer to hang together without the younger sister accompanying. Nothing particularly scandalous. That should have been the end of it once he declined courteously. However, it wasn't. She sobbed as she went to our parents a few weeks later, claiming to have been wronged. Her words, "I saw him first. It's not fair." She was already seeing someone else, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter that he had never been hers in the first place. In our family, performance was more important than reality. Since she was upset, I was the bad guy. "Maybe you should think about your sister's feelings for once," she suggested to me. "Family is more important than some boy." My father concurred. Nobody inquired about my feelings. Nobody gave a damn. Her marriage was her fallback option. He was well off, reliable, and extremely giving. Ideal if the correct last name on wedding invitations was more important to you than true love. But she never stopped talking behind closed doors. I settled. He's boring but rich. He thinks he won the lottery. Poor guy. I listened to everything. The banter and the casual brutality. She had extramarital affairs. Sometimes after a few beers she boasted about it. My parents dismissed it with a laugh. My mother once said, "Marriage is complicated," while gesturing with her palm. Adding, "Boys are fragile," my father said. "Let her have her fun." I wasn't going to be the quiet one tidying up her mess though. This time. Someone has to know the truth this time. Someone who wasn't worthy of being silently humiliated in private, like I had been for years. Perhaps it wasn't retaliation. Perhaps it was a show of solidarity. Perhaps I was just picking the side that no one else had ever picked for once. I shut down the laptop and inhaled deeply. I wasn't going to apologize this time, and tomorrow would be different. My phone was buzzing against the nightstand when I woke up, as if it were trying to get out. I was still sleepy when I opened one eye to see the stack of missed calls. 6 from home, 3 from my mother's phone, and 2 from a number I didn't recognize but felt bad about. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned over, covered my head with the blanket, and listened to the quiet hum of the motel air conditioner. The new law of life: they can SMS if it is sufficiently urgent. The text did indeed follow. "Call us now. What did you do? Fix this. We need to talk." Without even reading the rest, I placed the phone face down on the nightstand. My spouse was stirring across the room, shirtless, hair disheveled, his wedding ring gleaming in the morning light. He muttered, "Everything okay?" "Family's in crisis," I admitted while dozing off. "It must be Tuesday." With a snort, he covered his head with the blanket. The first concrete hint of what was going on came to me around mid-morning. My relative, who was as socially conscious as a wet sponge, texted me. "Yo, heard your sister's husband dipped." Crazy. Family's freaking out. Dipped. To put it that way was one way. Over the course of the following few days, pieces gradually came in, resembling a jigsaw puzzle that is disorganized and has half of its pieces missing. It appears that my sister's husband had viewed the message I sent, or rather, the compilation of screenshots, recordings, and evidence, after the poetry reading. Evidence that his wife, whom he had helped through her resignations from employment, her breaking of leases, and her unfulfilled goals, had never appreciated him, had made fun of him, and had cheated on him. I had heard that there had not been an immediate screaming match. Nothing but quiet. A prolonged, perilous stillness. The kind where the actual harm was not yet apparent. The fallout became apparent in a matter of days. There was no big show when my sister's spouse moved out. By the end of the week, the divorce documents were filed. The invisible safety net my parents had never acknowledged they needed vanished along with him. He ceased making payments to my parents' company. Stopped making payments on their mortgage when unforeseen costs arose. Ceased offering courteous justifications for their inability to pay their bills in full on schedule. It was as if someone shut off a faucet from which they had been drinking without even realizing it. I took my own discreet actions. Canceled the temporary automatic payments that I had put in place 2 years prior. The ones that covered their emergency dental care, a portion of their utilities, and the cosign I created for their vehicle lease. Disconnected my accounts. My name was taken off the joint emergency fund. Moved my own funds to a more secure location where I wouldn't feel bad about utilizing them. I kept it a secret. No major altercations, just a silent disappearance. Financial ruin is a phenomenon that doesn't happen all at once. It seeps. Initially, credit card minimums are overlooked. The business invoices are then paid after the fact. Then, rather of sending courteous reminder emails, suppliers begin calling. The bank then regretfully notifies you that your request for a second line of credit was denied. Just as they had allowed their treatment of me to fester over the years, it was a gradual and agonizing process. Little betrayals, insults, and neglects added up until the foundation as a whole collapsed. I would often sit with it in the nights. The quiet, the lack, the odd pain of releasing oneself from something you've been pursuing your entire life. I had always imagined that it would be like falling off a cliff if I ever truly let go of my parents. It didn't. My ankle felt as though a weight had been unclipped. I wasn't going to fall. I was adrift. However, that did not negate the pain. There were quiet times when the grief struck more forcefully than I had anticipated. For example, when I was writing thank you notes to visitors, I thought of sending one to my parents out of habit before realizing they hadn't been present. Or when I saw a small Mother of the Bride frame in a store, and my hand grabbed out instinctively, foolishly, as if it still thought the appropriate people had given a damn. Another instance was when a stranger grinned at my spouse and me and remarked, "You must have such supportive families." And I had to chuckle because my family only had their own egos to uphold. When you survive individuals like that, you develop a certain kind of humor that becomes ingrained in your bones. Not the kind that makes you laugh aloud. Drained, exhausted, of course they did type. It's the kind of coffee you drink in a crummy diner at 2 in the morning, just relieved to be somewhere else. Other adjustments also occurred. Quiet ones. I became pregnant about 2 weeks after the wedding. In the little hotel bathroom, with my back against the wall, and my heart pounding somewhere close to my ears, I gazed at the test. There was no plan. Just earlier than we anticipated. But not exactly unanticipated either. The world skewed slightly around me as I sat there for a long time, palms flat against the chilly tile. The only thing my husband did when I told him was grin, pull me in and say, "We're ready, you're ready." And I believed him for the first time in a long time. I kept my folks in the dark. Not even when the emails and texts began to come in. Certain news isn't the property of those who wouldn't be pleased for you. Some achievements are too valuable to give to others who merely want to use them as leverage. Their circumstances deteriorated in the meanwhile. I wasn't deaf, but I also didn't seek out updates. Cousins engaged in gossip. Curious texts were delivered by old neighbors. The long-muted family group chat was alive with secondhand anxiety. Revenue for businesses fell. A few sellers withdrew from sales. Bills were piling up. Smaller payments were first missed, followed by larger ones. It was not yet dramatic. There had been no court dates or foreclosure notices, but the strain was mounting like a little break in glass. They never arrived at my door. Not quite yet. Later, when situations worsened to the point that panic overcame pride, that would happen. But occasionally, I questioned whether they were taken aback. The calm one didn't fold, which surprised me. They had never realized how much they had depended on the phantom daughter. On the evenings when I sat at the kitchen table, I considered that. In front of me was the paperwork for the new house. With our feet intertwined beneath the chair, my spouse was looking through listings. On some nights, my dearest friend from childhood would phone. We chuckled at the time we unintentionally flooded his garage while attempting to construct a water slide, and chatted about the old neighborhood. After the baby was delivered, half-serious arrangements were made to travel. Neither did he inquire about my parents. He didn't have to. The problem with true family was that they were aware of when survival depended on silence. It became evident that things were getting out of my parents' hands by the end of the 3rd month following the wedding. For some reason, their company's temporary shutdown for renovations never ended. Under the guise of downsizing for retirement, their house was discreetly put up for preliminary offers. People began to take notice. The invitations ceased. The pitying glances began. Just a quiet, steady unraveling. No big confrontations, no screaming bouts. Similar to how they had eroded my trust in them over a lifetime. And I drifted farther and farther away each day. Not tumbling, flying. It was raining the day they arrived. Not a romantic, sweet drizzle. The kind of rain that makes you question whether you should prepare an ark in case it happens, and slam sideways on windows. Really, it fits. The doorbell rang just as I was folding little onesies with soft gray, mint green, and tiny yellow stars. Not once. 5 times quickly, as if someone's entire palm was holding the button down. The sound made my husband freeze. The two of us exchanged glances across the kitchen. We were aware already. Through the peephole I took a quick look. They were there. At their feet were stacks of suitcases, jackets that are soaked, tight, angry grins. My sister and my parents. Like a threat, 3 faces I hadn't seen in months pressed themselves against the doorway. I took a while to open it, simply stood inhaling deeply while pressing his forehead against the soft wood. My spouse approached me from behind and placed a supporting hand on my back. Silently, "We can call now," he said. "Not yet," I said in a whisper. "Some things you have to see for yourself before you set them on fire." Without even saying hello, they shoved me when I eventually opened the door. Water from the rain trickled down the hardwood floor. In the center of the living room, my sister dropped her duffel bag. As if he owned the TV, my dad positioned himself next to it. My mother nodded tightly, as if she were anticipating tea service. My dad said, "We're not leaving," in a firm voice. My mother also said, "Not until you fix this." With an oddly quiet heartbeat, I carefully closed the door behind them. They jumped right in. A full-scale assault. They wanted me to give my sister's husband a call, tell him that I had lied, and explain that it was all jealousy, miscommunication, and a spiteful, nasty hoax. "You ruined our lives," my mother yelled aggressively. My father went on to say, "You embarrassed this family," my sister yelled. "If it's the last thing you do, you're going to fix this." In a tangle of fear, despair, and rage, their voices surged above one another. I let it pass over me as I stood there. At the time, I wasn't their daughter. I was a transaction, a duty. They kicked a broken vending machine in the hopes that the candy would still fall out. My dad made it official at one time. "If you won't help, we're staying here until you do." Daring me to dispute, he crossed his arms. My mother began discussing room division while he sat heavily on the couch. As if this had already been determined, my sister walked off toward the guest bedroom while pulling her luggage. Quietly I laughed. It was ridiculous, not because it was humorous. Because they hadn't been listening if they believed that I was still the girl who would allow them to enter and take control. Simply, "You're trespassing," I said. As if I had uttered a foreign language, they blinked at me. My mother remarked, "You invited us," in an overly high voice. Calmly, "I didn't even tell you where I lived," I said. Behind me, my husband had already started dialing. I caught him talking to someone in that courteous, business-like voice he reserved for important matters. My father moved forward, menacing. "You don't call the police on your family." "Funny," I responded with a flimsy smile. "I thought the family didn't abandon you on your wedding day." Heavy and unsightly silence. I saw my mother's face flash with genuine dread for the first time. It took very little time. After 15 minutes, someone knocked on the door. 2 cops who are courteous and professional. I just pointed, gave my ID, and displayed the lease agreement with just my husband's and my names on it. I didn't have to say much. My sister and parents were asked to leave by the cops, allowed them time to quietly pack up. Naturally, my sister yelled at me, accusing me of being callous and ruining the little family I still had. My mother sobbed. Threats were whispered beneath his breath by my father. However, they eventually departed, carrying their drenched bags back into the rain, while being watched calmly by 2 extremely patient police officers. I collapsed onto the couch, suddenly worn out, as the door closed behind them. My spouse sat next to me, warm and quiet. Like a reminder, the baby gave a little kick. Now, this, not them, is family. We moved again later. Discovered a home further away, nearer to the lifestyle we truly want. We did not send out a change of address. Few people were aware of our location. Occasionally my best friend and his partner would come over with amusing presents and tales of their travels and late-night dining in other locations. The life with my parents that I had dreamed of. Simple, encouraging, and unrestricted. I constructed it somewhere else. I made it better. I heard the fallout from mutual acquaintances and distant cousins. My parents' beloved home, which they had boasted about, sold at a loss. The company has left. Accusing everyone but herself, the sister who was always too good for punishment is now crashing on couches. I didn't make contact. Not after the divorce was declared final. Not at the time of filing for bankruptcy. Not when all the posts on social media vanished like wine poured on a dusty floor. I had believed that cutting them off would be like losing a limb or ripping something out of myself. However, it didn't. It was like the first time you realized you were never broken and got to your feet. All along you were simply seated in the wrong spot. The little mint green onesie is still folded and stashed in a drawer. The first one I purchased. The one about which I was terrified to speak. The one for which I at last understood that I didn't require their approval. My child will never grow up believing that love must be earned by doing good deeds. In his own house, she will never feel inferior. She will understand the true meaning of family. The nicest part is that they won't even be aware of her name. I question whether I went too far at times. If it was truly important to transmit that message, cut them off, and contact the cops. But then I remember who I was as a girl. The one who continued to be tolerant. The person who never gave up. I also understand that I didn't go very far. They simply never imagined that I would go anyplace. However, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts. Did I make the correct decision? Tell me in the comments below. Additionally, remember to hit subscribe if you would like to hear more stories like this one. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode. I came back from a business trip to find my sister and her kids in my apartment. When I asked them to leave, my whole family criticized me. Hello everyone. The tale of the day will astound you, but quickly, if you like this content, please click the subscribe button. Recently the channel has been a little quiet, but your support keeps it continuing. Let's get started. I'm a 28-year-old man who has spent the last 3 years living in my own apartment. I've always cherished my independence and personal space, and I work in software development. I went on a business trip 2 weeks ago to meet with clients all around the nation. When I departed, everything was as usual. My flat was spotless, well kept, and just the way I wanted it. After I returned, everything changed. Tired from traveling, I unlocked my door to discover my sister Sarah, 25F, and her 3 children, ages 3, 5 and 7, had moved into my house. I'm not referring to a couple bags for a quick trip. I'm referring to changed furniture, toys all over the place, kids' clothes in my spare bedroom, and food in my refrigerator that I most surely didn't purchase. I briefly believed I had entered the incorrect apartment. "Oh, you're back," my sister replied nonchalantly, as if this were absolutely normal, as she left the bathroom without even noticing me. I stood there, key still in hand, too astonished to answer. "Mom said you'd be home today." As I tried to comprehend what was occurring, the children ran over, thrilled to see their Uncle James. My private area, my apartment, had been totally overrun. When I eventually managed to speak, I questioned, "What the hell is going on?" Sarah clarified that she needed a temporary place to stay because she had been experiencing problems with her landlord. She apparently got permission from her parents to use my flat while I was abroad. She went on, "They said you wouldn't mind." As though that resolved the issue. I was enraged. I hadn't received a call. No one had sent a text. No one had considered asking the renter if it was acceptable to transfer a whole family into his unit. I called my parents right away, and I was even more irate after hearing their response. "Oh James. I'm glad Sarah found a place to stay." My mom's landlord was being utterly irrational. My dad called me and told me that I was being self-centered, and that family helps family when I brought up the fact that they had allowed my sister to enter my apartment without my consent. He reminded me that helping my sister wouldn't kill me, and that I had all that extra room. I clarified that I pay a lot of money for my flat, because I want privacy. When I'm not traveling, I work from home, and having 3 children would make it impossible. In addition, my lease expressly forbids having long-term visitors without informing management. "Well, she's already settled in," was their reply. "You can't simply throw her out." I can, in fact. They treated me as like I was the irrational one for demanding my personal space back, even though it's my apartment. The children have been informed by Sarah that they will be staying with me for some time, and she didn't give me a direct response when I asked her what that meant. She replied she's researching her choices but hasn't taken any firm action when I questioned her about her plans to find a new location. Sarah and the kids have taken up my bedroom and the spare room, so I'm currently sleeping on my own couch. Now my neatly arranged apartment is in disarray. Everywhere you look you can find toys. I have no privacy, and the kids are noisy from the early hours of the morning till evening. I've given Sarah a week to come up with a different plan. I don't understand how it's reasonable to ask me to give up the apartment I pay for without even consulting my parents. Yet they think I'm being unkind. Am I being self-centered here? How can I regain my privacy without causing a family emergency? Update. The key that was not permitted. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who supported and commented on my first post. It made me feel less insane for being angry about this circumstance. Since my last post, things have become worse. I spoke with Sarah directly after several of you recommended that I find out how she entered my flat in the first place. She didn't break in, it turns out. She received a key from my parents. Yes, it is what you read. My parents reportedly chose to give my sister the extra key to my apartment, which they kept for emergencies only, without telling me. They responded angrily when I confronted them about this. My mother remarked, "We knew you'd make a big deal out of it." My father dismissed my worries, saying I was overreacting, and that it's not like anything bad happened. Sarah needed help and you were away. What were we supposed to do? Let her and the kids be homeless? I pointed out that there were plenty of other options, that they could have let her stay with them, helped her find temporary housing, or at the very least called me to ask permission before letting her into my home. However, things have happened. I've been cleaning my apartment and found a number of missing or damaged items, along with a broken set of expensive noise-canceling headphones, stains on my couch that weren't there before, a signed baseball I had on display in a case, and my PlayStation and 3 games. Someone used markers to draw on my bedroom wall, and when I questioned Sarah about it, she became defensive, saying that she had no idea what the PlayStation or baseball were about, that the headphones were probably already broken, and that the stains and the wall artwork were just children being kids. My costly sheets, which I specifically purchased because they help me sleep better, are stained with what appears to be juice or Kool-Aid. Sarah's response: "They'll wash out. Stop being so materialistic. This is more than just a privacy invasion." I later found out that the kids had been sleeping in my bed while I was away. Now it's about respecting my property and boundaries. I've told Sarah that the 1-week deadline still applies. I've made it clear to my parents that they will never again have access to my apartment, and I've changed the locks, which I paid for myself, even though the landlord offered to split the cost after I explained the situation. The narrative has somehow turned into that I'm the villain in this story, because I want my own space back, and I'm upset about my possessions being damaged or missing. But I'm standing firm. This is my apartment. My parents are now giving me the silent treatment, and Sarah has been telling family members that I'm throwing her and the kids out on the street. I've offered to help Sarah find a new place and even lend her money for a security deposit, but I'm not going to back down on the deadline. These are my belongings, and I have every right to be upset about what happened. I'll provide another update at the end of the week. Update: the damage report and missing valuables. I wish I had better news to share. It's been 4 days since my last update. The PlayStation and games that went missing, Sarah lent them to her current boyfriend without asking me, the autographed baseball that was missing from its case. I've done a more comprehensive inventory of my flat, and found that the damage and missing things are worse than I first believed. When I opened the desk drawer where I keep important documents, I found a small lockbox with $500 in cash. My emergency fund was empty, and when I confronted Sarah about it, she admitted that she borrowed the money because she was short on cash and promised to reimburse me as soon as possible. However, one of the kids took it outside to play with, and it's now lost somewhere in the neighborhood park. I've taken pictures of everything and made a comprehensive list of the missing and damaged items totaling almost $2,000. I sent this list to Sarah and my parents, making it clear that I expect reimbursement, but they didn't provide a timeline or acknowledge the seriousness of taking money that wasn't hers. Their answers were predictable. The deadline I set is coming up, and Sarah hasn't tried to find other housing. Instead, she's intensified her efforts to make me feel bad by using the children as emotional leverage. Sarah says she doesn't have that kind of money right now, and my parents accused me of nickel and dimming my own sister during a trying time. Where are we supposed to go? The smallest of her children began to cry when she asked this question in front of them. Additionally, I now know more about her housing circumstances. Despite what my parents suggested, she was not homeless. Due to months of non-payment of rent, she was forced to leave her previous flat. This isn't an emergency, even though my parents provided financial support throughout that period. Everyone expects me to correct the cycle of recklessness that has culminated in this situation. The atmosphere in the flat has gotten even more heated. Apparently, as a form of retaliation for my insistence that the children go, Sarah has ceased cleaning up after them. Toys are all over the place, dishes are heaped in the sink, and the bathroom has been transformed into something I never would have imagined in a matter of days. I've tried setting limits by locking the door to my home office throughout the day, but the kids keep yelling for me and hammering on the door, which interrupts my business calls. Sarah doesn't try to reroute them, or show any consideration for my work schedule. Sarah had earlier complained that I wasn't helping her find a boyfriend in my apartment with food, so last night things reached a climax, when I got back from grabbing takeaway for myself. I'd only met this man twice, but he was sitting on my couch, sipping my beer, and behaving as though he lived there. Sarah accused me of being domineering when I protested his presence, claiming that I had no right to govern her social circle. I reminded her that I have complete control over who is allowed inside my house as the legal tenant. After a heated argument, her partner left, but not before accusing me of being true to your own blood. Other family members have now been recruited by my parents to exert pressure on me. 2 aunts, an uncle, and even my grandmother have called to remind me that family comes first, and that I should be more sympathetic to Sarah's plight. I've discussed the matter with my landlord, and he's been surprisingly understanding. He acknowledged that it is against the conditions of my lease to have an undeclared residence, but he stated he would be accommodating given the situation. Even though Sarah is not listed on the lease, he has also hinted that we could have to start formal eviction procedures if she doesn't want to vacate. Though I'm praying it doesn't happen, I'm getting ready in case it does. 3 days remain till the deadline. After it passes, I'll provide another update. Update: family repercussions and eviction proceedings. As many of you anticipated, Sarah didn't try to leave or even explore for other lodging when the deadline drew near. Rather, she firmly asserted that she was aware of her rights, and that I was not allowed to evict her without giving her enough notice. Despite not actually being a renter, it appears that she has been receiving counsel regarding her rights. I formally gave Sarah a written notice with 30 days to leave the property after speaking with my landlord and a friend who is a lawyer. To ensure that there would be no doubt as to whether she received it, I personally handed this to her and sent it to her via certified mail. She laughed in my face in answer. She remarked, "Good luck with that." When my parents learned about the official notice, they became enraged and said, "I'm not going anywhere." My father yelled at me over the phone, saying that I was ruining the family and that he had raised me better. Taking a different tack, my mother called me in tears to express her disappointment and her inability to comprehend her own son prioritizing paperwork before family. They both declined to take Sarah and the children in. When Sarah's ex-husband, who is also the father of her children, got in touch with me, I realized that things had taken an unexpected turn. Sarah had apparently informed him that the children would be staying with my parents, rather than in my apartment. He was unhappy with the state of affairs and worried about his children's living circumstances. He said he had been attempting to acquire greater custody anyhow, and after hearing the whole tale, he offered to take the kids full-time until Sarah gets permanent home. Sarah went utterly crazy when she learned that I had spoken to her ex. I came back from a business trip to find my sister and her kids in my apartment. When I asked them to leave, my whole family criticized me. Hello everyone. The tale of the day will astound you, but quickly, if you like this content, please click the subscribe button. Recently the channel has been a little quiet, but your support keeps it continuing. Let's get started. I'm a 28-year-old man who has spent the last 3 years living in my own apartment. I've always cherished my independence and personal space, and I work in software development. I went on a business trip 2 weeks ago to meet with clients all around the nation. When I departed, everything was as usual. My flat was spotless, well kept, and just the way I wanted it. After I returned, everything changed. Tired from traveling, I unlocked my door to discover my sister Sarah, 25F, and her 3 children, ages 3, 5 and 7, had moved into my house. I'm not referring to a couple bags for a quick trip. I'm referring to changed furniture, toys all over the place, kids' clothes in my spare bedroom, and food in my refrigerator that I most surely didn't purchase. I briefly believed I had entered the incorrect apartment. "Oh, you're back," my sister replied nonchalantly, as if this were absolutely normal, as she left the bathroom without even noticing me. I stood there, key still in hand, too astonished to answer. "Mom said you'd be home today." As I tried to comprehend what was occurring, the children ran over, thrilled to see their Uncle James. My private area, my apartment, had been totally overrun. When I eventually managed to speak, I questioned, "What the hell is going on?" Sarah clarified that she needed a temporary place to stay because she had been experiencing problems with her landlord. She apparently got permission from her parents to use my flat while I was abroad. She went on, "They said you wouldn't mind," as though that resolved the issue. I was enraged. I hadn't received a call. No one had sent a text. No one had considered asking the renter if it was acceptable to transfer a whole family into his unit. I called my parents right away, and I was even more irate after hearing their response. "Oh, James. I'm glad Sarah found a place to stay." My mom's landlord was being utterly irrational. My dad called me and told me that I was being self-centered, and that family helps family when I brought up the fact that they had allowed my sister to enter my apartment without my consent. He reminded me that helping my sister wouldn't kill me, and that I had all that extra room. I clarified that I pay a lot of money for my flat, because I want privacy. When I'm not traveling, I work from home, and having 3 children would make it impossible. In addition, my lease expressly forbids having long-term visitors without informing management. "Well, she's already settled in," was their reply. "You can't simply throw her out." I can, in fact. They treated me as like I was the irrational one for demanding my personal space back, even though it's my apartment. The children have been informed by Sarah that they will be staying with me for some time, and she didn't give me a direct response when I asked her what that meant. She replied she's researching her choices but hasn't taken any firm action when I questioned her about her plans to find a new location. Sarah and the kids have taken up my bedroom and the spare room, so I'm currently sleeping on my own couch. Now my neatly arranged apartment is in disarray. Everywhere you look you can find toys. I have no privacy, and the kids are noisy from the early hours of the morning till evening. I've given Sarah a week to come up with a different plan. I don't understand how it's reasonable to ask me to give up the apartment I pay for without even consulting my parents. Yet they think I'm being unkind. Am I being self-centered here? How can I regain my privacy without causing a family emergency? Update. The key that was not permitted. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who supported and commented on my first post. It made me feel less insane for being angry about this circumstance. Since my last post, things have become worse. I spoke with Sarah directly after several of you recommended that I find out how she entered my flat in the first place. She didn't break in, it turns out. She received a key from my parents. Yes, it is what you read. My parents reportedly chose to give my sister the extra key to my apartment, which they kept for emergencies only, without telling me. They responded angrily when I confronted them about this. My mother remarked, "We knew you'd make a big deal out of it." My father dismissed my worries, saying I was overreacting, and that it's not like anything bad happened. Sarah needed help and you were away. What were we supposed to do? Let her and the kids be homeless? I pointed out that there were plenty of other options, that they could have let her stay with them, helped her find temporary housing, or at the very least called me to ask permission before letting her into my home. However, things have happened. I've been cleaning my apartment and found a number of missing or damaged items, along with a broken set of expensive noise-canceling headphones, stains on my couch that weren't there before, a signed baseball I had on display in a case, and my PlayStation and 3 games. Someone used markers to draw on my bedroom wall, and when I questioned Sarah about it, she became defensive, saying that she had no idea what the PlayStation or baseball were about, that the headphones were probably already broken, and that the stains and the wall artwork were just children being kids. My costly sheets, which I specifically purchased because they help me sleep better, are stained with what appears to be juice or Kool-Aid. Sarah's response: "They'll wash out. Stop being so materialistic. This is more than just a privacy invasion." I later found out that the kids had been sleeping in my bed while I was away. Now it's about respecting my property and boundaries. I've told Sarah that the 1-week deadline still applies. I've made it clear to my parents that they will never again have access to my apartment, and I've changed the locks, which I paid for myself, even though the landlord offered to split the cost after I explained the situation. The narrative has somehow turned into that I'm the villain in this story, because I want my own space back, and I'm upset about my possessions being damaged or missing. But I'm standing firm. This is my apartment. My parents are now giving me the silent treatment, and Sarah has been telling family members that I'm throwing her and the kids out on the street. I've offered to help Sarah find a new place and even lend her money for a security deposit, but I'm not going to back down on the deadline. These are my belongings, and I have every right to be upset about what happened. I'll provide another update at the end of the week. Update: the damage report and missing valuables. I wish I had better news to share. It's been 4 days since my last update. The PlayStation and games that went missing, Sarah lent them to her current boyfriend without asking me, the autographed baseball that was missing from its case. I've done a more comprehensive inventory of my flat, and found that the damage and missing things are worse than I first believed. When I opened the desk drawer where I keep important documents, I found a small lockbox with $500 in cash. My emergency fund was empty, and when I confronted Sarah about it, she admitted that she borrowed the money because she was short on cash and promised. My sister tried to seduce my fiancé before our wedding. Got caught on camera and was disowned by our parents. My manipulative, narcissistic sister attempted to seduce my fiancé just before our wedding in an effort to break us apart. Fortunately, her actions were caught on camera, leading to her being disowned by our parents. This story revolves around my older sister, Dove, 29F, who has never been able to tolerate my existence, as she apparently believes I'm living a life that I don't deserve. Dove, who is now divorced and jobless, is living with our parents. She had dropped out of college to be with her wealthy boyfriend, who eventually divorced her when her true nature became apparent. Growing up, my relationship with Dove was far from ideal. She was always the pretty and smart one, full of herself, and our parents consistently showered her with praise, which left me feeling inadequate. Everyone around us constantly admired her looks, while I was often ignored, and it hurt deeply. Dove used her popularity to mess with my mind, telling me that no one liked me, which made me incredibly insecure. My parents never supported me or acknowledged my feelings because Dove always lived up to their expectations. This led me to distance myself from them throughout my childhood and teenage years. Dove frequently had friends over when our parents were at work, and they would often mess with my room. On one occasion, they even ruined a school project of mine, nearly causing me to fail. When I threatened to tell Mom about it, Dove blackmailed me, saying she would share embarrassing pictures of me with my classmates. At just 14 years old, I was terrified. Dove never took responsibility for her actions, and it was pointless to tell my parents because they never paid attention to me. My mom never had my back, although my dad would occasionally call Dove out. For instance, one time she used my phone to send strange pictures to my friends after I'd complained to Dad about her. Another time, she spilled coffee on my prom dress and then played the victim, crying and claiming it was an accident. After that, I stopped confiding in him altogether. I never really understood why she harbored so much hatred towards me until later when I realized that she was a narcissist, and her behavior had nothing to do with me. She was a walking red flag in her relationships, cheating on every guy she dated. As much as I hate to admit it, she was also a gold digger. Something her ex, who remains a friend of mine, can fully attest to. Essentially, she was pretty awful as a teenager, and nothing changed as she grew older. If anything, her behavior only got worse. It was entirely my parents' fault because they never bothered to discipline her. After school, things finally started to look up for me. I worked incredibly hard to get into my dream college, and after a few years of struggle, I landed my dream job. It was there that I met the love of my life, Atlas, at an office conference. He was smart, kind, and handsome, and we hit it off instantly. Within a few months, we started dating. We traveled a lot, which only strengthened our bond. Atlas was very close to his family, so he introduced me to his siblings and parents just a few months into our relationship. But when it came to introducing him to my own parents, I took my sweet time. The main reason for this delay was my sister Dove and her malicious intentions. I always had this nagging feeling that she would find a way to ruin everything. She was the one who always got the best of everything as a child and teenager, and now that my life was going better than hers, I was certain she wouldn't be able to handle it, especially when it came to my relationship. However, I couldn't keep delaying the introduction any longer. Atlas was beginning to grow suspicious of my reluctance to introduce him to my family. So, after a year and a half of dating, I finally told Dad about him. Dad was thrilled that I had found a man who was worthy of me and invited us over for dinner. While I was excited, I was also equally stressed because I knew Dove could go to any lengths to sabotage my happiness. Although Atlas was aware of my family dynamics, I went over it with him in detail. He was relaxed about it and reassured me that he would handle whatever came his way. A few days after I spoke with Dad, I unexpectedly received a call from Dove. It was surprising since she had never reached out to me before. She started asking questions about Atlas and when I planned to visit home, but it was clear that her real interest was in getting more details about Atlas. I can only assume that Mom had told her I was seeing someone and that our relationship was getting serious. Dove was suddenly trying to get all chummy with me, but I could see right through her motives. Now, I'm grappling with whether I should take the risk of introducing Atlas to Dove, knowing full well that her intentions are far from good. I'm also considering an alternative, perhaps inviting my parents over to my place so they can meet Atlas without involving Dove. Update 1, thanks for all the great advice. Some of you asked for more details about Dove, so here you go. It's true that my parents, especially my dad, began to see Dove differently after her divorce, and she really brought it on herself. She had been academically gifted, but once she got to college, her entire focus shifted to her looks and beauty. That's when she met Jeremy, a super rich guy, and jumped into a relationship with him, completely abandoning her studies. During my final year of school, I was busy preparing for my college entrance exams, and Dove kept telling me I would never get into my dream college. But I did, and for the first time, I got validation from my parents. They were genuinely happy and proud of me, but Dove couldn't stand it. She was jealous that all the attention was on me and not on her. To sabotage my moment, she announced her engagement to Jeremy at the celebration party my parents had organized for me with close family and friends. It was obvious from Jeremy's expression that he had no idea she was going to do this, but she succeeded in making the day all about herself. Everyone immediately became curious about Jeremy because, according to Dove, he was extremely wealthy. Dove loved to show off the expensive gifts he bought her and would constantly tell me that I'd never find a rich husband because I was ugly and no one would want to date someone like me, always trying to make me feel bad. I eventually told her that I wasn't a gold digger like her and that I could pay my own bills, so she could have the rich husband if that's what she wanted. In truth, she was incredibly selfish and downright evil, the most selfish person I've ever known. A week later, Dove and Jeremy got engaged, but by then I was already off to college and didn't attend the engagement. During my time in college, I had no communication with her. It actually felt good to come home for the holidays, knowing that Dove was living with Jeremy. Even during the holidays, she would often be away on vacations to exotic locations with him. After a year of dating, they had a lavish wedding, with most of the expenses covered by Jeremy. Dad chipped in for the remaining costs as a courtesy since Dove wasn't earning anything. Their marriage didn't last long, though. After 3 years, they got divorced. The reason, as I later found out, was that Dove didn't want to have children, while Jeremy was eager to become a father. Although he assured me he never pressured her, he was frustrated that she never disclosed her feelings about it beforehand and had avoided the conversation for 3 years. He also mentioned her drinking and partying habits, flirting with guys at bars, and that she had married him purely for his money, with no emotional connection. I couldn't help but wonder how he remained blind to her true motives for so long. Jeremy even showed me videos of Dove out drinking with guys who were touching her inappropriately, and she did nothing to stop them. I was relieved he finally ended things with her, but my parents took Dove's side, blaming Jeremy for pressuring her about having kids, never acknowledging her faults. After the divorce, Dove moved back in with my parents since she wasn't working. She had dropped out of college to marry Jeremy, and now, after 5 years, she had no degree and no work experience. She pretended to be traumatized by the divorce, but in reality, she was happy to be free. Within a month of the divorce, she was back to her old habits, clubbing and hooking up. Her life seemed to revolve around weekly dates and ditching people, and her Instagram stories made it clear what she was really up to. 2 years into my career, I landed my dream job with a great salary, and my parents were thrilled. After receiving the job offer, I visited home, and Dad was so proud of me, I couldn't have been happier. We were having dinner when Dove returned home, looking partially drunk. Dad was upset at the sight of her and commented that Dove should have focused on her education like I did, instead of ruining her life over Jeremy. He pointed out how much I was earning and how Dove was still dependent on them for money. Mom tried to get Dad to stop making such comments, but hearing this, Dove lost her temper and slammed the door. That's when Dad finally realized just how spoiled Dove had become. He told Mom that it was time to knock some sense into her, insisting that Dove needed to start taking her life seriously and get back on her feet instead of continuing to leech off them. By this point, I was completely fed up with her. Later, Dove barged into my room and smugly told me that no matter how much money I made, I could never be like her. She even went as far as to body shame me, pointing out my belly fat and chubby cheeks. As a teenager, those kinds of comments used to break my heart, but now, I just didn't care. I laughed in her face and told her that I had no desire to be like her and that she clearly needed to work on fixing her attitude. That set her off, and she demanded that I leave the house. I calmly reminded her that this was our parents' house, and she had no authority to boss me around. The next day, as I was packing to leave, I noticed that 2 of my dresses had been badly torn, clearly cut with scissors. I went downstairs and showed my parents what Dove had done. Dad was furious and called Dove out, but Mom, as usual, tried to make excuses for her, claiming Dove was in shock and didn't know what she was doing. Dad wasn't having any of it. He warned Mom to stay out of it and then unleashed his anger on Dove, telling her that she needed to get her life together because he was done providing for her or tolerating her narcissism. This confrontation didn't sit well with Dove, and she ended up hating me even more because of it. From that point on, I was subjected to Dove's wrath, but her hatred didn't bother me. It only became unbearable when she started making advances on my boyfriend. After much consideration and talking it over with Atlas, I decided it was time to visit my parents with him. There was no point in hiding him from Dove any longer because, no matter how hard I tried, she would eventually find a way to get to him. My friends advised me that it was better to test his loyalty now than to risk losing him later. Dove would only succeed in her malicious intentions if Atlas allowed it. With a sense of dread, I showed up at my parents' house with Atlas. I tell you, she was practically throwing herself at him. As he was exchanging greetings with Mom and Dad, Dove almost forcefully pushed herself onto him for a hug. I have no idea what made her think Atlas would fall for her looks. She had completely transformed her appearance, dyeing her blonde hair black, getting all dressed up in a new outfit, with her nails and hair perfectly done, as if she was on a date with him. She tried to force her way into the conversation, but it was clear that everyone was ignoring her. At the dinner table, she quickly rushed to sit beside Atlas. When I asked her to move so I could sit there, she gave me an annoyed look but eventually complied. She kept asking Atlas about his interests, and if he mentioned liking something, she would immediately claim she liked it too, even if it was obvious she didn't. Then she'd go on about how she and Atlas were so compatible, winking at me as if to suggest I shouldn't take it seriously, though it was clear she was trying to cover up her intentions. Atlas was visibly uncomfortable, and he ignored her, continuing his conversation with Dad and Mom. Her desperate attempt was so blatantly obvious. After dinner, I decided to take a shower, leaving Atlas by himself. That's when Dove walked in, asking him to call her number because she claimed she couldn't find her phone. It was obvious that this was just a ploy to get his number. How twisted. Atlas also told me that while I was occupied with other things, Dove tried to play the victim, telling him her sob story about the divorce and how much mental distress it had caused her, dragging on about how it took her years to recover. To make matters worse, Mom even chimed in, blaming Jeremy and speaking ill of him. After a while, Atlas asked me if I wanted to go for a walk and give him a tour of the neighborhood. Before I could respond, my sister quickly stood up and said, "Sure." Atlas looked at her, surprised, and firmly stated that he wanted some alone time with me. Her face turned red with embarrassment and she quietly retreated to her room. It's only been a few days since that visit and I can already sense that Dove is planning more schemes to lure Atlas into her trap. I can't deny that it worries me, but at the same time, I trust my man and am curious to see how he handles her advances. Update 2. Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to share that I'm engaged. Atlas proposed to me last month during a trip and yes, he got down on one knee with a ring, and I couldn't stop gushing over it. But even after our visit to my parents, Dove didn't stop with her manipulative tactics. She started texting Atlas, asking how he was doing. Knowing that Atlas is a huge cat lover, Dove began flooding his inbox with cute cat videos, even though she never cared for cats before. After discovering that Atlas adored cats, she went so far as to get one herself and began recording videos of it to send to him. For the first few weeks, Atlas showed me Dove's desperate attempts to appear caring and concerned, sending messages that pretended to inquire about his work and well-being. After a while though, he stopped sharing her messages with me. I assumed she had finally given up on him and moved on, and we both shifted our focus back to more important things, especially with our busy work schedules. One day, as I was scrolling through social media, I noticed that Dove had added Atlas to her account. She was liking and commenting on nearly all of his posts, using silly heart icons. She even went back and commented on old pictures and videos from 7 to 10 years ago. I immediately felt uneasy about it, So out of the blue I checked his phone. I discovered that Dove was still texting him occasionally, but her messages were unread and seemed odd. She was clearly trying hard to get Atlas's attention. In his call logs, I saw missed calls from her, including one that came in around 3 a.m., which made me feel anxious. I confronted Atlas about why he hadn't told me that Dove was still texting him. He got a bit nervous and explained that he had been ignoring her and thought it was better if we didn't talk about her. I pressed him further about the calls, and he remained calm. Then he sat me down and explained that one day, Dove had called him, sounding really upset. He got scared, thinking something might be seriously wrong, but it turned out she just started talking about traumatic experiences related to Jeremy, saying she needed someone to talk to. Atlas told Dove that she should talk to her parents instead and that it wasn't appropriate to call so late. He also mentioned that she should have let me know first. That really struck a nerve with me, and I told him that keeping this from me wasn't okay and could lead to me losing trust in him. He reassured me that he would never fall for her tricks and that I had nothing to worry about. Even with his reassurance, I had read too many stories about husbands falling into similar traps, and I didn't want to be naive by blindly trusting him. I told him that the next time Dove called, he should hand the phone over to me so I could catch her in the act. Sure enough, one night, her call came through, and Atlas woke me up in the middle of the night. I answered the phone, and Dove immediately went silent when she heard my voice. She quickly claimed it was a mistake and hung up. The next day, I tried calling her multiple times to confront her, but she never picked up. So I texted her from Atlas's phone, letting her know it was me and that she needed to stop calling or texting him at odd hours. I also told her that if there was anything urgent she should contact me directly instead. After that, she finally stopped texting him, and I felt relieved that she was out of our lives. After Atlas proposed to me, I sent a picture of the ring to my dad. Dove must have shown it to Mom, and not long after, she started her stalking behavior again. She began texting Atlas and sending ridiculous videos. I was completely fed up. As soon as Atlas told me, I called her and unleashed all my pent-up anger, telling her to stop playing games and get a life. She mostly stayed silent while I let it all out, but I didn't realize at the time that she wasn't going to back down easily. As soon as I hung up, Mom called, furious, yelling at me for insulting my sister. Dove had told her that I was accusing her of trying to steal my fiancé. Mom claimed that my cruelty had caused Dove to have panic attacks and insisted that I be more considerate toward her, reminding me that Dove had been struggling with depression for years and was still recovering from her traumatic divorce. I found it laughable because Dove was never depressed about her divorce. I hung up the call and immediately informed Dad that if they continued to ignore Dove's behavior, I would have no choice but to cut them out of my life. I was done being a puppet in her game. I couldn't keep turning a blind eye to her antics. Update 3. I never imagined Dove would stoop so low. She had always made my life miserable, but I never thought she would actually try to seduce my fiancé before our wedding. The bullying, body shaming and constant ridicule were one thing, but realizing that she was willing to go as far as trying to ruin my wedding by seducing Atlas was a bitter pill to swallow. As we were planning our wedding, I wasn't in contact with Mom after our last confrontation. However, she eventually called and apologized for shouting at me, admitting that she had lost control out of fear for Dove, who was supposedly having panic attacks. One of my cousins later told me that Dove had been crying to everyone about how I was accusing her of trying to steal my fiancé and that I didn't deserve any of the good things in my life, especially Atlas. According to Dove, because she was the gorgeous one, she believed she should be the one getting the best of everything, not me. When I told Mom about this, she went quiet. She simply told me to forget everything and focus on my wedding and the happy life ahead. Fortunately, everything went as planned, and Dove managed to keep a low profile for a while. At the very least, she didn't interfere in our lives during that time. On the day of our wedding, we were at the venue, busy with final preparations, when I received a call from Atlas's best friend, asking me to come to Atlas's room with my parents. I jokingly teased him, saying that Atlas wasn't supposed to see the bride before the ceremony, but he insisted that this was something serious that needed to be dealt with before the wedding. My heart raced as I hurried to Atlas's room with my parents. When we arrived, Atlas was lying shirtless, drifting in and out of consciousness, while his groomsmen recounted Dove's devious actions. Apparently, while Atlas was getting ready, Dove had shown up with a drink. He initially refused it, but Dove persisted until he took a sip. Almost immediately, Atlas realized the drink was spiked. He excused himself and went to the washroom, where he called his friend, explained what had happened and asked him to come over. By the time his friend arrived, Atlas had partially passed out and was out of the washroom. Since his friend was sharing the room with Atlas, he had access and quickly turned on his camera as he entered. He overheard Atlas shouting at Dove to leave him alone while she was on top of him. Undressing herself, and rubbing against him. This disgusting act was captured on camera. When Dove noticed Atlas's friend, she pretended they were making out, covered herself up and left the room, smirking at his friend and asking him not to tell anyone. Little did she know that she had already been caught on video. When we walked in, Atlas was still lying there, partially unconscious. The drink was so potent that even a few sips had left him severely dizzy with a pounding headache. The glass was still there, with solid particles settled at the bottom. It was an incredibly humiliating moment for my parents, who were in disbelief that Dove could do something so horrendous. My mom immediately called Dove and told her to come to Atlas's room. When she arrived, her lipstick was smudged, and she nonchalantly said, "I know you guys are mad at me, but it was mutual. Atlas loves me and has been making advances on me ever since we met. Today, he convinced me to have a one-time hookup before the wedding." My mom slapped her hard, telling her that we were aware of her lies and that everything had been recorded on camera. Dove was stunned by this revelation, and my parents wasted no time in kicking her out of the venue before she could cause any more trouble. Security was instructed not to allow her back inside. It was obvious that she had been trying to make it known that she had been with Atlas, hoping I would call off the wedding. My dad immediately called a doctor, who confirmed that Atlas had indeed been served a spiked drink, which had severely affected him. Atlas's parents and siblings were so upset that they wanted to confront Dove, but my parents had to apologize profusely to them to help calm the situation. The wedding had to be delayed until Atlas recovered, which took several rounds of vomiting to get through. Word of the incident spread quickly among the guests, who were buzzing with gossip for the next few days. Once Atlas had fully recovered, my dad walked me down the aisle. While I was happy to finally see Atlas as my husband, I couldn't shake the stress of everything that had transpired. During our vows, Atlas added an extra promise, vowing to protect our relationship from anyone who didn't want to see us together. After we returned from our honeymoon, my parents came to visit us and apologized to Atlas for all the trouble Dove had caused. My dad reassured us that Dove would be out of our lives for good. He had actually kicked her out of the house and told her to fend for herself. Despite this, I'm still struggling to move past the incident. My wedding was perilously close to being called off, and if Atlas's friend hadn't recorded what happened, I might never have believed that Atlas was innocent in all of this. My brother once threatened to kill me, my husband, and our children. He was sentenced to a year in prison but will be released soon. What should I do? Hi everyone, I'm so grateful to this community and the incredible support. I'm posting this to update you about our case. My brother called and threatened to kill me and my husband and kids about 2 months ago. He also has a history of getting guns, an axe, and other supplies with plans to commit other murders. He has hurt a dog sexually when he was younger, but did not hurt people yet. It has been horrible and difficult, and I'm not sure that I could have survived emotionally without my friends, colleagues, and this community. You gave me amazing advice. We are moving this upcoming weekend. My husband has been more supportive with the move, even though he still feels that he could take on my brother. I'm not interested in physically confronting my brother. I don't want to live in constant fear. Meds and the psych hospital didn't help him. I think the only thing that will help is a long-term inpatient unit, but our state doesn't have those resources. My brother was released from the hospital straight to jail. He currently awaits his court date in May. I met with the prosecutor today and gave my statement. They put his bail at $500,000, the highest the detective I've been working with has seen for a misdemeanor. His lawyer requested to lower it, but the judge refused to lower the bail amount. I was told the judge is aware of his previous serious plans and preparations to kill. The prosecutor plans to go for the most jail time possible for this, a year. I don't know if jail is right for him, but if he is released he will hurt someone. I spoke with my dad, and he was so mad at me for speaking with the police. He kept saying how my brother was asking for help and sharing his fantasies with me, not threatening me. He kept telling me to withdraw my statement. He said that I'm the one that put my brother in jail. It broke my heart. I told my dad that I only told the police the truth. I told him my brother is sick and will hurt someone. My dad said, "You don't have a crystal ball." True. But he's made his intentions clear again and again and again. His doctor said he has no empathy. His only thrill is thinking about hurting others. The prosecutor said that even if I withdraw my complaint, the state is still bringing these charges. The social worker and prosecutor said this to my parents, but my dad, mom, and sister keep insisting that I need to recant my statement. I'm terrified of every small noise in the house. We are leaving our friends and everyone we know and moving because of my brother's actions. I feel so heartbroken that my dad and family are blind to it. Everyone else, police and medical staff included, can see the clear writing on the wall. Relevant comments. Commenter, please keep your location private from your family. While they downplay the threat your brother poses, they're a risk. I can easily see them disclosing your new location to him just to prove he's not a danger. OP posted about her relationship struggles with her husband. Please help me stay in my marriage. I'm losing my patience. Married for 8 years. We have 3 kids, 7 to 2 years old. We both work full-time. Recently we had to move due to a safety issue. My husband did not want to leave and made me feel crazy for wanting to flee for our safety. Our already fragile marriage feels unstable with the added stress of moving. My husband is on the spectrum and I thought that working from home would help him be less stressed and more kind. But he is unhappy, unkind, yelling at me and the kids, and generally questioning any decision or request I make. I made a compromise when I married him, knowing that I did not like his sense of humor or sex with him, but thinking that his intelligence and our common values would get us through. Now I feel stuck because I don't feel like our values are the same anymore. He wants material possessions. He hates meeting new people. He can't tolerate the noise and chaos our kids bring. I don't mind the chaos and noise, that's just kids. I love minimalism. To me, a stranger is just a friend I haven't met yet. I'm making new friends every day out here, and he's refusing to meet anyone new in our new city. I love being at work because I feel valued and appreciated. I love being with my kids or my friends for the same reason. But I dread every interaction with my husband. When he's gone for several days, I feel so happy because no one is criticizing me or yelling at the kids. He's on depression and ADHD meds and in counseling, but I don't think it has helped. Having known him for this long, I know he isn't changing. I keep trying to convince myself to stay. I want to stay for our kids. I don't want to ruin their lives. I'm just so very unhappy with constantly managing his feelings. I don't care if I will be alone my whole life. I don't care if I'll ever be loved. I just don't want to feel miserable. But I need to stay for our children. I feel so lost. I just want to not feel bad. Relevant comments. Commenter: why do you need to stay for the children? What good is it for them to be exposed to this? OP: I've dated people before that had these qualities but didn't match on values, or ended up doing something that hurt me. I made a decision to marry my husband knowing we matched well on most things. But since having kids he has become angry. Activities that we used to enjoy together he no longer enjoys. He used to make me feel special. I'm hoping that things change and he becomes happy and fun again. Update 1. We have 3 young kids and we both work full-time. We moved to a high cost of living location and my husband has encouraged me to get a second job because I have a profession that pays well. I told him that I enjoy working and I do, but I manage appointments for the kids and already feel stretched thin. I use lunch breaks to pick up meds for the kids or make phone calls for appointments for the family. My days off are used to take kids to appointments. I clean the house in the evenings. I let him know he'd have to take over the appointment coordinator role, start cooking more, and do more childcare if I'm working 50 or more hours a week. Well, I got off of work at 7 tonight and ran by the pharmacy to pick up our son's prescription. I was there over my lunch hour, but they messed it up so I came back after work. The line was long and I texted him updates. By 8 something I got the med and drove home. He was pissed because he took the kids to Costco for dinner and one accidentally dropped their food. I got home in time to help with bedtime while my husband yelled at the kids and told me he can't handle it. He said he could handle things if I actually made it home at a reasonable time. I'm kind of dumbstruck. Does he want me to work more or take care of the kids? I can't do both, and I told him this ahead of time. When we met he told me that he wanted kids and I agreed to have kids. I love our children. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but he told me that would stress him too much. I'm now feeling forced to work but still having to pick up the slack at home. Relevant comments. Commenter: sounds like your job is already tough getting off that late in the evening. Does he work and do you have daytime childcare? If he can't handle a single evening with the kids, I'd be concerned about him having to do that most nights. What a whiner. He's going to have to toughen up and get some better parenting skills and patience because parenting doesn't necessarily get easier, just different, as the kids get older. OP: we do daycare. I'm a healthcare provider and my job gives me a lot of satisfaction, but we recently had to move for safety reasons. I'm the one that forced us to move because I was fearful for the kids' lives. The job I took promised full-time but ended up only having 30 hours a week, so I'm now picking up extra days at another clinic and interviewed to work at an urgent care on the side. Our son has severe ADHD and anxiety. I had to get all the doctor appointments scheduled, find school and daycare for the kids, get us into a protective program, take the kids to appointments, etc. My husband doesn't cook and he yells at the kids. He is in counseling but it sounds like the major thing the counselor said to him was that he has to take time for himself. I thought that was wild. I have done my best to keep us afloat. My husband kept his old job, but it doesn't pay as well and he has to drive back to the old house to fix it up to sell. The drive is 8 hours each way, so I'm caring for the kids on my own weekly. I'm struggling. We don't have family here, so not much support. Writing this out makes me feel like maybe I'm a dummy for doing this and not putting my foot down, but I signed up for counseling and it was a disaster. The therapist told me to stop having expectations and to not complain and then proceeded to argue with my husband. Commenter. Dude, there are a lot of bad therapists out there, so please don't let that deter you. We had to go through a few before getting one that worked for us. I couldn't believe the internalized misogyny and blatant sexism of many. The worst one didn't take insurance, so we were paying $200/WK for one session. She was obsessed with his family and how they were the image of perfection. She asked if she could meet his parents. She also told me that I should not have expectations. It should be clearly communicate and discuss expectations. She told me I was not allowed to bring up relationship issues. She would only ask me to listen to him and validate his feelings. It goes on and on. Do not let someone speak to you like this. Your feelings are valid, and find a new therapist if you are told otherwise. OP, wow, did we see the same therapist? It was almost verbatim what this therapist said to us. I'm the one that booked the appointment and filled out, not even joking, the 39 mandatory forms before the appointment. She berated me for filling out all the forms myself. Before any input or questions, she pointed to my unhappiness in our marriage from the filled out forms, and told me that I clearly overthink things and talk too much. Yeah, you had 39 mandatory forms. Of course it's a lot. Update 2, quick recap on her previous situation and thanks the community for their support. I want to let you know we are safe. We are in our new state. My husband is trying his best and being far more supportive. He still believes we should have stayed to fight, but he's accepted the fact I felt the threat was real. The kids are adjusting to life in our new state. We made some friends. Our location is not public, despite my license to practice medicine being available online. It is far from the first result and our address is hidden. My employer is very respectful and kept my name off of the clinic list of providers. I've signed up for address protection through our state. This is thanks to many of you who advised me to move and hide our address. I appreciate all your kind advice. I am flying back to our old state today to testify against my brother tomorrow. He decided to go for a jury trial on advice from my parents. I'm an anxious mess and have tons of conflicting feelings. I helped raise my brother and a large part of my identity has been helping and protecting my siblings. A small part of me feels that testifying against him, and sharing everything I know, will destroy his life and be a betrayal. But I know he made his bed and must have consequences. It's the right thing to do, as shitty as it feels. The boy I helped raise is not there anymore. He is not the same person that sexually abused a dog, that has threatened to shoot up a hospital pediatric unit, stab my sisters, kill my parents with an axe, or kill me and my husband and kids with a sledgehammer. I dread seeing this man tomorrow. Every time his photo shows up on my phone I panic. Meeting people with the same name makes my heart beat faster. I can't stop feeling fear. I plan to tell the truth and let the jury decide if my brother is guilty. I worry that this will destroy what's left of my relationship with my family of origin. I have to do the right thing even if my parents and sisters think this is a betrayal of our family. My sister told me this will not change things between us, because she believes I will do the right thing for the family. But the truth is I plan on doing what's right for my family and the community. Again, I am grateful to you and will update you on how things go. Updated added via an edit. I just gave my testimony. My brother and mom were staring daggers into me, but I did my best to keep calm. They only allowed me to testify about the threatening phone call, not about any of my brother's past history. Not about guns, axes, or dogs. Relevant comments. Commenter. You're doing the right thing. Congratulations to you for actually doing something and preventing a tragedy. You're awesome. I don't know about American law, but is there a possibility to testify without the defendant in the room? Like, remove him from the room while you can testify. I've asked for this and I've seen it happen many times as a lawyer in another country. OP, I do not think there is a way to testify without my brother being in the room. I know that my family will also be there, and in a way, knowing how much they do not want me to testify is the worst part. My family is Soviet with a history of alcoholism, abusive behaviors, and secrecy. I'm trying to break that cycle for my own kids and to raise them to tell the truth, even if it is difficult or scary. It's heartbreaking that my brother grew up to be this person and threw all of us into this horrible situation. I wish that I didn't have to go against my parents' wishes, but I truly don't have a choice. Commenter. Your brother is desperate for help. And your parents and sister want to ignore those cries for help because IDK they don't want to look bad. If your brother is released and hurts or kills someone, what then? OP, my parents were mad at me for taking him to a crisis center initially when he admitted to being suicidal. They thought I should have brought him home to them to take care of it themselves. I think their approach would have allowed him to hurt someone. They think him buying guns and an axe, and tactical gear and scoping where to shoot people is just fantasies he had. My dad said it's no different than watching World War II movies, or reading historical fiction. My parents also don't believe that he sexually abused their dog even though he admitted to it multiple times and the police and FBI told us about it and the social workers confirmed it. I didn't want to believe it either, but my brother admitted to it himself to my face and he looked very sheepish, and embarrassed that he did it. He didn't expect that his doctor would reveal it to the police but they did. My parents care more about their son and how the family looks than the actual well-being of their daughters or grandkids. Update 3. Hi everyone. Thank you again for your kind support. Here is a hopefully, final update. I testified against my brother today, in the case of threatening to kill me, my husband and our kids. My brother was found guilty. I gave a victim statement and my husband gave one virtually. I was able to provide more background on his past threats and guns and other weapons. My testimony at trial was very limited to the phone call, so it felt good to be able to say all the reasons we have to take him seriously. My mom gave a tearful character statement saying he was so gentle and would never hurt anyone. The judge cut her off mid-testimony. It was honestly so validating. He will be released from jail in 2 weeks to serve out his sentence of 2 years of probation with regular check-ins, mandated therapy, and possibly having to wear a GPS tracker. The judge also extended the protective order for me and my husband and kids to 4 years. My mom is renting a hotel room for my brother once he's out of jail. They are trying to find a halfway house but it will most likely be not very secure. At least probation and mandated therapy should help, I hope. I do not plan on having any future contact with my brother. I will see if we have contact with my parents. I plan on still talking with my sisters. I've urged them to not share their addresses with our brother, but they are adults. I'm not going to reveal our location to any of them because I don't trust that they won't reveal it. I feel that the ruling is fair and will get my brother treatment. I think that we are safe now. I did everything I could. Now I'm in the airport about to fly home and I'm having a drink to close this horrible chapter. Cheers. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42 a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the F, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad. Like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him, so there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died, but I still felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway, and more. Comment 2. He found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails, when I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned. I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3. I've been assuming that she found out about me on her own, maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me, if it's actually her. I get what some people are saying about siblings and such, but that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day, and those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So I don't think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus-year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1: I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office on his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did, and I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact. Regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity, my son will likely be curious about his biological father and who knows, maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing. By choice, I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born, and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college, I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away on a vacation to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago, his wife contacted me via social media. At first, she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation, I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and in their teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here. Then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the 2 of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Relevant comments OP on if the father would be moving closer to her and her son now that he's divorced from his ex-wife. OP answer, to touch on just a few things. I don't think he'll move away from where he lives. He has way too much established there. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how this supposed accident, if that even really happened, has affected him, but he was incredibly physically active when I knew him. He only slept like 4 hours a night, took a 20-minute power nap daily, and rarely ever sat down. He was also highly involved in his children's lives. I'd even say overprotective, like a helicopter dad instead of the typical helicopter mom. Careless_welder_4048, how did he have time to cheat? OP answer, he only slept a few hours a night and moved at about 1,000,000 miles a minute. Everyone joked about it. Somehow he always had time to get up at 5 a.m., go surfing, do some work, take his kids to school, do some work, take his power nap, get coffee, pick his kids up after school and take them wakeboarding or some other sort of thing like that, do some more work, be at his kids' basketball game and so on and so forth. He literally never ever stopped. I was just another thing to help fill out his calendar to prevent him from getting bored. OP on the father's relationship with his ex-wife and their children. OP answer. I also don't think he and his wife had much of a relationship, although it wasn't quite as he described it to me. They lived in the same house, but I believe they lived pretty separate lives. He bought her a business to give her something to do and keep her busy. She was there most of the time. They didn't even go to their kids' activities together. He was always the one going. So I think that freed up time too. I don't think they liked being around each other, so she was happy to have him out of the house. She admitted to me that I wasn't the first affair he had, and she knew about most of the time we were together. Another update on how stupid I am, or I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband, who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media, and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago, we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words: "Why can't I just talk to him?" I told him he made me uncomfortable, and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him, and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way, part of me felt happy to see him, and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away, and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Relevant comments. OP on if the father is actually divorced from his wife. OP answer: I checked the county records and they did actually get divorced. Mammoth_Might 8171. At this point, you need to trust your lawyer. Hopefully he is a good one. Make sure that your lawyer has all the facts, including how poorly he treated you when he found out you were pregnant. Do not communicate any more with your ex, especially since you know that you're incapable of making good decisions when he is involved. You may need to prepare yourself mentally that your ex is eventually going to play a role in your kid's life, as much as that sucks. Hopefully you can go after him for back child support. OP answer: my lawyer has any and all information that I possibly had to share. I am already preparing myself that he will likely have a role in my child's life. I mean, the change will be difficult for me and I honestly don't want anything to change. But I'm trying to focus on any shred of positive outcome this could have for my son. He deserves a dad. I wish it wasn't in this situation. I wish I had given him 2 loving parents in a stable relationship, the ideal. I wish I had at least given him a father who didn't live states away. I feel bad that my son has 2 lying cheaters for parents. I truly do feel so embarrassed about our behavior in a new way I did before, ever since my son was born. Other than that whole thing and the fact that he's apparently had affairs with multiple women according to his ex-wife, he actually seems like a good dad to his teenage kids. He was always very involved with them. I guess I'm just trying to cling to whatever positive things I can think of. He can also provide a lot more financially than I currently can. That's scary for me because I'm already turning it into some sort of competition between us in my head. Several points for him, none for me. Plus my son is also very shy. He doesn't do well if me or one of my parents isn't there with him. I'm just now getting him involved in more activities with other kids and safe, trusted adults, but he still just clings to me. My heart breaks when I think of him meeting a strange man he doesn't know and me not being there. I want to be there. Plus I think that's how things normally go for him, and to be perfectly honest that's how I used to be for him too. Just go along with what he wants. He was obviously expecting me when he showed up in person. He genuinely seemed surprised I didn't cave into his request right on the spot. The previous version of me probably would have. OP on how the father managed to find her address. OP answer. He sent me a letter in the mail previously. I googled myself and my address came up easily. Admittedly, I made no effort to hide myself after moving away. I didn't think I needed to. He had no interest in being involved with our baby and I promised to never contact him again. So I thought that was the end of it. His ex-wife told me he was in a bad accident when I talked to her. It's not too surprising based on his hobbies. He lives at like 200 miles per minute. According to her, she had to move back into their house to take care of him while he recovered. When he showed up here, he didn't look like somebody who had been in a life-threatening accident not too terribly long ago. He told me he's fully recovered and although he'll probably have back issues the rest of his life, he's perfectly fine. OP on having a visitation plan with the father for her son. OP answer. My lawyer says that other than creating a graduated visitation plan based on the fact that my son doesn't know this man, the fact that he hasn't been involved in his child's life for the last 3 years won't mean much to the court. Their ultimate goal is for a child to have 2 parents. I screwed myself over by not naming him as the father at birth or trying to establish paternity in any way. Had I done that and he fought it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, etc., then we could have a better case as far as abandonment goes. He is putting in the effort to establish paternity now, is willing to pay child support, so he says, and is presumably going to tell the court he wants to see his kid, and this is going to reflect positively for him, despite not being involved for 3 years. New update. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or two getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man complete stranger is his dad. He said sure, yeah. Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Relevant comments. OP on the times when her son has to go visit his father and what the courts are deciding on. OP answer, they haven't ordered him to visit his father in his state, but eventually, that will probably happen. Talking elementary school age. Worldly promise 675. I hope it all works out as well as it can given the circumstances. Your son and his well-being is definitely top priority. The baby daddy seems really pushy and doesn't like boundaries, so it does not seem he's changed much. OP answer, he's used to getting his way. I'm doing my best to not just roll over but also learn to compromise. Imalela, are you concerned that he may also try to push the idea of reconciling romantically? It sounds like you are focused on your son and he's focused on getting his way. OP answer, I don't know. He hasn't really given me that impression. He's given me compliments. He's tried reminding me of some of the good times we had together. But I see that as all part of his schmoozing to just get me to do what he wants, not to get back together with me. OP on getting a therapist for her son. OP answer, yes, I'm working on finding a therapist for him. I realize I should have started that process before this all went into action. My foster family of 11 years is kicking me out by the end of the week. I have nowhere to go and I feel broken. I, 18 male, was told earlier today that I need to pack up and leave by the end of the week. I still feel in shock. I was removed from my biological family when I was 7 due to issues with my parents. I was then placed in foster care and then matched with a couple who I will call the Peters. It's not their real name. No matter how much I actually want to blast their real info, I won't. The Peters were always really nice to me, and since I moved in when I was pretty young, after a while I started to consider them my parents. I called them mom and dad, treated them as my parents, treated their biological son as my brother. I wasn't their only foster child. They also have a 9-year-old boy who has lived with us for a little over a year. I was never adopted by them. I know why, because they live off the fostering allowance. Something that never really bothered me. They told me that it didn't matter, and that legality didn't make us a family. Which I believed. I went on their agency website earlier today and I found out that they are getting paid at least $2,400 for me per month. Or at least they were. Since I turned 18 they stopped getting the allowance. However, they applied for a staying put arrangement for me, which meant they would continue getting paid something as they continue to support me and let me live with them. It wasn't as much, I think it was like $1,000 per month. They told me they had it approved until I was 21, so I thought I'd be able to stay at least until I finished uni. They sat me down today and told me I had to leave. They told me that fostering is a business and that they couldn't afford to keep me on just the stay put arrangement allowance. They told me I had until the end of the week. 4 days. How generous of them. They said they need my room because they want to get a new foster placement. They literally told me it's not personal. Like that makes me feel any fucking better. They said they would still consider me like a son, not their son anymore. Like a son, and that they want to keep in touch. What a joke. They choose to kick me out. An 18-year-old with no job, no income, no nothing. About to start university. Yet their bio son who is 25 gets to stay? So yeah. I guess fuck me, right? I'm just the one no one ever wanted. I guess I wasn't ever truly part of their family. Relevant comments. Accomplished EMU 591. I am sorry for your situation. However, you should contact the agency that was paying them. Tell them what they did, and ask for referrals to other organizations that can provide you assistance with finding employment and attending uni. It is even possible that your report of their behavior would make them ineligible for further paid foster placement. Not likely, but possible. No address 1159 responding to Accomplish EMU 591. Calling your former social worker is 100% a great idea, OP. Or going to Citizens Advice. There is plenty of support available to former foster children and they will help you find what you're eligible for. The part about reporting them, sadly there wouldn't be anything legally wrong or against any fostering practices for what they're doing. As long as they don't continue to claim on the staying put order, that is. In England, fostering is generally treated more as a business than as something you do for love, as it is in the US. Which has its upsides and its downsides. Morally though, the Peters are despicable people in my opinion. Jen in Miami. I'm so sorry. If it makes you feel any better, many parents kick their biological kids out once they turn 18 too. OP. Answer. It doesn't really if I'm honest. Mouse and Ladybug. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. These are garbage people. I'd be reporting them for fraud. They can't accept money to have you stay there if you aren't. OP. Answer. They'll probably cancel the staying put arrangement altogether, so I don't think they'll continue to be paid for me after I leave. Though that is something I am 100% checking in a few weeks. Po boy from Po family. They're doing it for the money. That is why. It's unfortunate and they sound horrid. I'm sorry, OP. I hope it all works out for you. Leaving will suck. But at least you won't be surrounded by greedy leeches. OP. Answer. I thought they were my family. I'm genuinely considering going no contact with them after I'm set up whatever I'll end up doing next week. Cucky94. You absolutely should. You were 7 when you went into their care. They denied you the opportunity to find a real family who love you for you and not the dollars you brought in. Fuck them. You deserve better. OP. Answer. I doubt anyone would have adopted me. I wasn't a great kid, in truth had more issues than a hospital piss pot. I wasn't a great kid in any sense. But I changed. Genuinely I changed. I can't help but wonder if this is because of how I was as a young child. Nene 1 through 0388. I'm so sorry this has happened to you, honey. You must be feeling awful. Do you have a care leaver's personal advisor? Not sure which area you are in. They should be supporting you to find move-on accommodation in a supported setting if needed. Or support you to approach your local housing office for support. Without cause, your foster family cannot give you 4 days notice to leave. They would need to give formal notice, which is usually about 4 weeks. It would be worth calling your Children's Services Duty, VOR, out-of-hours telephone number and explaining the situation, because it will be whoever is responsible, i.e. the personal advisors team who will be paying the staying put fees to the foster carers. So there is someone who is responsible and will need to provide immediate support to help you. OP. Answer. Yeah, I'm meeting with him today. I'm going to tell him they've given me a verbal 4-day notice and that I need urgent help. If I'm honest, I don't want to stay here anymore. The whole dynamic has changed and none of them even look me in the eyes now. But I'm not going to make myself homeless, so I'll stay until I have accommodation and I'm not leaving the house until I do. Brightad 3 is 06. It is awful, but if they counted on that money to make rent, they might not have much of a choice. I wouldn't conduct myself that way, but not every foster couple is rich. OP. Answer. They own their own home. And just some quick math for anyone interested. I don't know what package I was placed on because there's a difference allowance for each package, but according to the fostering agency website the minimum was $2,400 for me. It goes to a maximum of $3,400 per month, but I'll estimate off the lowest. Mine obviously stopped, but it would be the same for the 9M foster placement they have now. So, $2,400 x 12 for ours, $28,800 per year. Plus my $12,000 per year from the staying put order. Gave them a nice $40,800 per year. Which they would pay little, if any, tax on, as a fostering allowance is taxed very lightly here. That may not sound like a lot to Americans with your high wages, but the average post-tax wage where I live is $23,985 per year. They had enough, I think. Mini update. Okay, thank you guys for all your advice. Honestly, I was in a state of shock yesterday. Maybe still am today. I wasn't thinking straight. I only slept 2 hours last night, that's all, so I'm probably a little delirious today as well. Firstly, I have contacted my personal advisor. He'll be having an emergency meeting with me at 1:30, so I'll have more details about what's going to happen to me then. He'll hopefully be able to sort out emergency accommodation for me. Secondly, to those of you saying the Peters can't legally just give me 4 days notice to leave, I will definitely be mentioning this to my personal assistant and get his advice on it. I don't want to stay here any longer than I need to because they told me it's like I don't exist. They just look right through me. But I'm not going to move out until I have safe accommodation for me. I will outright refuse. I am not going to be made homeless. Thirdly, those of you saying contact my uni, I have an offer from them, but it's only conditional if I get my predicted A levels. Hopefully I will, but since I'm not technically a student yet, I don't know if they will actually provide any support yet. Finally, I am also going to ensure that the staying put allowance stops. I will tell my personal assistant today that it should surely be stopped if I'm not living with them. Luckily, I have some money saved. Some people here have said I should be entitled to a bursary when I start uni, and I'll have my maintenance student loan to help me. I've already started looking for a job. Relevant comments Snaggle00T4. Good luck. I'd cut all ties with them. They are not good people. Celebration Main, 8329. Good luck OP. I am here rooting for update 2. Okay, hi everyone. I just got home and am feeling incredibly tired, so this is just going to be a short update. Basically, I had a big long meeting with my personal assistant and he was very sympathetic and felt upset that the Peters are treating me this way. We had one meeting and then I went to get food while he spoke to the Peters directly, and then I came back to meet him again to let me know everything that has happened. He's putting me on the list for social housing. I am hopeful that it will not be long until I am able to get my own house. I recorded the meeting because I'm so sleep deprived, and also, I have really bad memory processing for long things like that because of my dyslexia, autism or something, I'm not sure. I can listen to it again tomorrow after I've slept, but from what I gather they will help me with paying for rent costs. I will also get some money to help pay for furniture and things like that. When he spoke to the Peters, I don't know if he said they had to keep me housed for a while or asked them to. I'm not sure. But they've agreed to keep housing me until the end of August, so at least I don't have to worry about everything happening in 3 days. He did tell me that if I feel uncomfortable, I can be moved into a youth hostel place while they wait for a property to be available for me. But I said, if I can, I would rather stay with the Peters until I am ready to move. Even if it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. He told me they will continue getting paid the staying put allowance until the day I officially move out, and then it will be stopped. On a completely separate note, my best friend and I had a huge argument earlier. He said that I'm being ungrateful, and honestly what he said really hurt me. We had a huge argument. I just thought out of everyone he would get me and understand what I was going through. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. I am really tired, so maybe my emotions are just not being controlled well at the moment. I am going to talk to him tomorrow after I've slept, and I'm hoping this argument will just blow over because I need him at the moment. I don't feel like I have anyone else. Oh, and I haven't read all the comments because I didn't expect to get so many. Thank you everyone who has offered support. It is genuinely so sweet and I am so thankful. Relevant comments Gen 820. Glad things are working out. Don't worry about your friend. Right now you are in survival mode. Trying to make sure you aren't on the streets. Hope everything keeps working out for you. OP answer. He said I should be grateful that they kept me that long anyway. Like the fuck? I'm not a pet. He also said some other things like how it's good that they're going to help another child like I was. Which is true, and I get that it's a good thing what they're doing to help people. But him saying those things make me feel like I'm being crazy for wanting to stay like I was promised by them. Ugh, I'm too tired and maybe I'm being irrational. I'm going to talk again with him tomorrow and say I'm sorry. Long and unimportant rant. It never bothered me that they were paid to keep me before. Genuinely never bothered me at all. I always knew I was a foster child. I was about 15 when I learnt that they were paid money to look after me, and I told myself it was a good thing. And it probably was. I have had loving parents for 11 years, which is more than some people can say. I just didn't ever think they'd make me move out when the payment stopped being as high. I found out that when I was still a child they were paid $111.82 per day for me. That's $40,114 per year. I had never felt different to the family. I had always felt loved and secure. I don't understand why they have changed their minds about me. None of them will even look at me in the eyes anymore, and it's gotten to the point where I can't leave my room anymore because all I feel is the absence of the love that used to be there. I didn't come down for any meal times, which was a rule that you had to before. If I didn't go down before, I wouldn't have gotten any food. But Mum brought it up to my room and knocked on the door to say she was going to leave it there for me. I've used that 100 times over and over again in my head, to try and convince myself that they still love me. I called her by her first name when I came home yesterday. Not Mum, Claire. She looked upset when I did that, and a part of me is happy about that, and a part of me feels cruel for it. I knew it would hurt her and I did it anyway. In some ways I wish she wakes up to the pain she's causing me. I hope she takes it back and says that it is a lapse in judgment, and that she loves me and wants me to stay. But if that were going to come, I think it would have already. I guess I'm not worth the $76 per day they lose by not replacing me with another foster child. When I feel bad about hurting them, I remind myself they're kicking me out to get an extra $76 a day. That's what I'm worth to them. $76 per day. Relevant comments. OP respond. I don't expect anyone to read this or care, but I want to say thank you for the immense love you've all shown me. I feel nothing but gratitude to you all. My in bad book. I'd like to think, at least a part of the reason for their lack of eye contact and emotional withdrawal is due to their feelings of absolute embarrassment, guilt and shame. That she seemed upset with being called her name, I feel, somewhat supports this. And they should feel this way. However, I really do hope they can put these feelings, and their egos, to the side and take steps to actively make amends and rebuild the relationship. I really am sorry this is happening, and I'm so very happy you had a secure and safe childhood. Edit. To add, I follow you and read your posts because I really want you to be okay. You didn't deserve this, no child does, no matter their struggles. I've been thinking about you and putting all the good thoughts out there for you. Imgen France, your feelings are valid and important. You are not alone. Adopted is a great group here on Reddit just for adoptees. People who understand because they've been there. You can also find groups on Facebook, and there may even be local groups in your area if you'd like to connect with people in person. You're doing amazing. Okay, I am going to try and condense this as much as possible. Basically, 18 male, got removed from my bio family when I was 7. I got taken into foster care and was matched with a family called the Peters. I was then raised by the Peters for the remainder of my life, from 7 all the way until now. They had originally told me that I was able to live with them indefinitely, as I considered the Peters my family. And they applied for a stay order with me, which basically means they continued to get paid something like $250 by the government to recognize that they're continuing to support a former foster child, me, after my 18th birthday. As I said before, I was always told by Peters I could stay as long as I needed to set myself up in life. Their bio son, who I considered my brother, is 25 and still lives with them. He doesn't work but graduated university 2 years ago. I have a conditional offer at a local university which I'm studying classics with aims to become a teacher. I start in October, if I get my predicted A-levels, which I think I will. But the Peters told me that I had to leave by the end of the week because they wanted to get another foster child. This is something they really sprung on me. And it's been extremely difficult for me. I had to get in contact with my social worker who spoke with the Peters, and now they're letting me stay until the end of August, but the whole family has changed. I explained all this to my best friend, and I said I was considering going no contact with them after I moved out. He ranted to me about how ungrateful I'm being to them. And how they raised me for 11 years and now they want to give that to another child in a position like I was. I get that, and that's part of the reason why I feel so guilty. My friend isn't speaking to me now, calling me selfish for wanting to stay with the Peters like I was promised. And for them trying to get rid of me with 4 days' notice. There were plans they could have taken to transition me into independent living before I turned 18, and they chose not to take part in them, because they told me I could always stay with them. The one time of my life I needed my friend, and he's gone too, and I feel so alone, and I can't understand why he's taking their side over mine. I understand the argument that they will continue to help another child, but at the same time I just wish they didn't have to throw me out to do so. When I suggested to my friend they could have asked their bio son to move out instead of me, and he just said, "I'm being selfish." I still don't even know if I am going to go no contact with them. I just said I felt like doing it, and I wish I didn't even say that because I didn't expect it to cause such an argument. So, am I the A? Relevant comments. Top reveal 847. You poor kid, your friend is an AH, and you're certainly not. Even if there is another kid waiting and desperately in need, they could have and should have at least let you plan ahead more than a few days in advance, And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Are you foster parents at least helping you find a place? Edit to add that you should let someone at the university know. IDK how it's done where you are, but some universities have programs for stuff like this. Wardog 1983. You not the A. The Peters are using the fostering system to support themselves. They do not care about helping the kids. They say that to justify their callous treatment of you. They should not be foster parents. I'm sorry about your friend, his point of view is a betrayal because it is simply wrong. Scott's way. Hey. Dude, my cousin used to foster kids. She fostered 3 sisters and 1 other girl. I use the words because she adopted them as she wasn't in it for the money. OP answer. I don't really even care that they were looking after me and getting money for it. It doesn't bother me. I never knew how much they were getting to look after me, but I did know they were being paid. It does make me hurt and betrayed that they're kicking me out for a difference of 70-something pounds a day. Material, Cellist 4133. Not the A. Also, you are far from ungrateful. You were 100% grateful until they made it about money. You thought they took care of you because they were good people. Instead, they took care of you for money. It's an even exchange, nothing to be grateful about. Peters found my Reddit posts. The Peters' son, Jamie, has found my original Reddit post. I guess I should have been more careful with the details, but my mind was so frantic at the point of writing it I just couldn't think straight. I'm not sure how he found it, but considering it has almost 10k upvotes, and Jamie was the person who introduced me to Reddit, I guess it might have just popped up on his page. Does anyone know if it might have popped up to him because we're on the same network, in the same location? A few hours ago, Jaime came to my room. He showed me the original post and asked if I had written it. At first I tried to deny it, but I'm an awful liar, so he just knew. He asked why I didn't tell him about this, and I said I thought he knew. He told me he had no idea and would not have supported his parents throwing me out if he did. He was told I requested to move out. He genuinely seemed shocked and appalled at the details in the post. Against my wishes, he shared the post in the family group chat. He did this out of a place of wanting to defend me. Mom, Dad, I really think you should read this and see the impact this is having on. But I really wish he didn't do it. They've both read the message but neither have responded. I have not left my room since. I'm really anxious right now. Like I'm at the level before a panic attack. I can feel one coming on. Relevant comments. Polly6119. Stay calm and know that you did nothing wrong. They may try to gaslight you. They may lie to your brother. They don't have a good track record for being decent people. But no matter what they do, remember you did nothing wrong. They cannot throw you out because of it. They have learned their lesson on that. I'm glad to know your brother didn't agree with their horrible decision, and I'm glad that he found out. Him not looking you in the eye these past couple of days may have had something to do with the tension already in the air and him thinking you just up and wanted to leave. I hope it turns out that they realize their mistakes and apologize profusely. But brace yourself for that not happening and that they may get upset with you for airing dirty laundry. They may end up trying to guilt you and blame everything on you. They may do nothing. Please remember, no matter what they say and no matter what your ex-best friend said, you did nothing wrong. Your feelings are valid. You deserve love. You did not deserve what they did to you. Afternoon agitated 803. Calm and breath. Sounds like he's being a big brother and sticking up for you, because for him you're his sister and he loves you. So talk to him more, lean on him more. He's an adult, he can handle it. The moving out. The Peters could have really dealt with this in such a better way. They could have talked to you about now that you're an adult and soon going to university. We'll go and talk to your caseworker about finding you your own place to live, and we'll be able to help another little kid just like you when you came here, but you've got to come round for Sunday dinner. Or something like that. They handled this so badly, saying yes you can stay till 21, then telling you exactly the money they receive, and then telling you to get out by the end of the week. Where did they expect you to go, FFs? Do the foster parents not work at all? Or are the children their only job? And although he's being a good brother to you right now if he finished uni 2 years ago, why isn't he working or getting training or something? 2 years of not putting his degree to use will show those in whatever field he did the degree in that he has no work ethic at all. I've just tonight been reading through all your posts and I completely understand why you're thinking of going LC with foster parents. They've handled it really badly, and next time you see your caseworker ask them, do foster parents not get training or anything on how to handle this situation of when a child is reaching 18? Tell the caseworker you want notes or something put on their file of how badly they have handled this, so that any future foster kids they look after their file shows. This is what they do when the money drops down, so that a future caseworker can put the child's needs first and they don't go through what you went through. With your friend, he's being a bit of an asshole. I'm guessing by the language used he has the privilege of living with his birth parents his whole life and is in no danger of being told he has to get out in 5 days? He is not acknowledging he's in a position of privilege in this situation. I'd message him and say, "These last few days have been crazy, and although you wouldn't know what it feels like to be in this position, I was just looking for a friend to listen to. It's been a stressful and upsetting few days and I don't want to fall out with you. And just suggest something you usually do together if you play a computer game or just hang out. End it with, do you want to play comp hang out tomorrow? And leave it at that and see what they say." Fairy Rebels Wild, to the Peters. From OP's posts, it sounds like you had a genuine relationship with him, or at least he felt you did. It's good that you were able to provide a stable family life for him. Considering that you had originally told OP he could stay and you had applied for him staying put, I'm going to assume that somehow your circumstances changed. That sucks. But you handled this in the worst way possible. You should have approached OP in a collaborative manner, explaining the situation. Phrased it as not being able to support him anymore, rather than fostering being a business. Explored if him getting a job and financially contributing would have helped. Actually help him connect with his personal assistant for those transitional services and with their advice, making a realistic move-out date. Everything you did was wrong. Saying fostering as a business taints every family interaction or affection as fake and transactional. I dare say pretending to be his family is worse than if you had kept it businesslike from the beginning. Verbal 4 days notice is actually heartless. How cruel and frankly, unrealistic, especially as you knew, being the ones to have originally allowed him to stay, that he wasn't applied to the transitional services yet. You can't expect him to continue treating you as family while you treat him as a former business colleague. Again, heartless and unrealistic. I hope you learn to be more empathetic to your future foster kids, or at least, be honest to them about your intentions from the beginning. What I'm going to send in the family group chat. Is this a bad idea? To Matt and Claire. I came to you as a 7-year-old. A 7-year-old who had never felt love or affection, or anything remotely nice. I was taught at a young age to fear those in authority. To fear the sudden changes in the moods of my birth parents. I was taught to bottle up my emotions and my pain and never show it. When I first came to you, my life was ruled by fear and anxiety. I know my behaviors back then were awful, and were a struggle to manage. I had been taught there were no consequences for some actions. And firm, scary and hard consequences for others. The worst part was that those actions never seemed to be consistent. I could do something one day and be praised by my birth family, and another day I would be beaten. Love was not something given, it was something earned. It was conditional and shallow. You both showed me another way. You showed me love and affection, and at first it felt confusing and hard to comprehend. I couldn't see myself as anything more than a nuisance. I couldn't see why someone would love me. I couldn't understand why you weren't beating me. Do you remember me telling you, you can hit me if I am naughty, I won't mind? Slowly you taught me to trust and love myself, and those around me. You showed me that no matter what I did, you wouldn't give up on me. You wouldn't send me away or hate me. And I really tried to make you. I know that. I was scared. You made me realize that it wasn't my own fault I was in care, and that I wasn't to blame for the things that happened to my birth family. You showed me appropriate outlets to my fears. You showed me love, compassion, and kindness. The first day I remember feeling truly safe was when I was sitting in your arms at 8 years old watching Shrek. I still think back to that moment. It probably just felt like another day to you. But to me, it is a core memory in my life. It's a moment that shapes the way I see myself. You sat up with me when I was worried about moving up to secondary school. You comforted me when my birth mom told me she no longer wanted to be part of my life. You were there when XX broke up with me when I was 15 years old and I felt like my whole world was ending again. You encouraged me to go beyond my studies and apply to university. The most important thing you showed me was that I was worthy of being loved and respected. You never gave up on me. I am who I am today because of what you did. I look at myself and I see compassion, care and kindness. And in those traits I see you. You weren't my birth family, but you were my family. My only family. I don't know what changed. Why has there been a switch? Why have you gone from the loving and caring parents you were? When I leave my room now, I no longer feel that love and kindness that brought me out of the pits of despair as a child. It's almost as if you have completely altered the way you see me, and I just can't understand why. A few days ago you told me I had to move out. You gave me 4 days notice to leave my family. You sent me back into feeling like that child at 7 years old. I'm not saying this to guilt you or to ask you to let me stay. That is past now, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be able to see you the same way again. I understand if you were hard on money or if you wanted to help another child like me. But why not talk to me? Why spring it on me and then act like I don't matter? Why tell me it's just business? Did you think that would make it hurt less? Since you told me my whole life has been turned upside down and I don't know how I will make it to the other side. If I had felt like this a few weeks ago, do you know who I would have gone to? I would have gone to you. I would have told you my worries and my fears, and you would have said the exact right thing, and then we'd sit together and watch some awful TV show. And now, I have no one again. I feel like I'm being told for the second time in my life that I don't deserve a family. And this time I have no one to pick me up off the edge. That was always you, Mom and Dad. It was always you I could rely on. Why are you giving up on me now? Relevant comments. OP respond. I really feel like today the whole thing has just hit me in the face again. I think the emotions I was feeling were being blocked, and today they've been let out and I've done nothing but cry all day. Jay loves writing. Send it to them. Let them know how you feel, how they hurt you, and that they cannot expect you to ever contact them again after you leave. They need to know how you feel. Send it to them, and if you want to, leave the GC. Because they may try to justify their actions, and you don't need to hear it. OP answer. The sad thing is I don't think I even want that. I want them to love me again. I've contacted my personal assistant, and I'm moving out today. My personal assistant is allowing me to store my things I can't take with me in his garage. It's kind of him. He's found me a place at a local hostel. I'll get my own room apparently, which was a big deciding factor on if I wanted to move in or not. The hostel works with the LA and houses a lot of care leavers, the English term for someone who has aged out of foster care, while they wait for their own houses. I haven't sent the message yet, but I know my foster brother Jamie has seen it. Yesterday I felt overwhelming emotions, today I feel none. I don't know which is better. I'll send it once I'm moved out. I have a room, so I'll be gone in a few hours. I still haven't spoken to them, but I just can't face it anymore. I am sick of being anxious and stressed about this. I guess they did get their 4-day notice after all. Edit 1. I have just left Peter's house for the last time. The room is ready for me at the hostel. I feel so weird and sad and lonely right now. I've ordered myself a pizza to have for dinner today. And my PA even paid for it. I just want to get in bed and cry. My head is spinning thinking about everything I need to do. Wish me luck, everyone. Edit 2. I want to clarify something. I was hurt and in shock when I wrote my first post, but I want to make it understood that I was never eligible to be adopted. At first, the end goal for me was to reintegrate myself into my birth family. By the time we knew that was never going to happen, I wouldn't have accepted adoption as I wanted to keep my legal ties with my birth family. The Peters always told me it didn't matter that I didn't want to be adopted, and they loved me the same anyway. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything, or maybe it would have. They were paid fortnightly for caring for me, and they would get $1,565.48. That's $4,702.48 per year they got just to raise me, which is about $52,295.77. I keep thinking about that number. Was that all I was? I wonder what I would change if I could go back in time. Edit 3. I am settled in the hostel now. It's not exactly luxury, to say the least. But at least I'm here now. I sent the text message, very slightly altered from the one I wrote yesterday. And then I left the group chat. I also posted it on Facebook. That was probably the wrong thing to do. I don't know. Final update. This is going to be my final update on all of this. I want to put everything behind me. Claire rang me crying, saying she had no idea I felt like this. How? How could she not know? She said she was sorry and begged me to come back. God. How do I ruin everything? She was telling me all these things about how she regrets the past few days so much and wishes she could take it all back. I said this is not fair. She cannot throw me out and then call me crying. I said it's manipulative. She just kept saying sorry. She said she loves me and wants me to come home. Jesus. This is just a lie, right? She must have known. Am I the bad person here? I feel so confused I don't know what to do. I just hung up and then she started texting me and I blocked her. But now I feel like I'm the bad person here. I'm so tired of this. Of all of this. I want nothing to do with any of them. I don't think Reddit is good for me. I'm not sure any of this is good for me. I'm going to delete the app. Sorry everyone. Relevant comments. Calamity Curls. I've been following along with your updates as you post them, OP, and I want to tell you that I'm so sorry you're going through this, that you deserve better, and that you are so strong in a situation where you shouldn't have to be. I'm glad your personal assistant is helping you, and I wish you nothing but success and happiness. OP answer. Thank you. I considered contacting my bio mom. Last time I spoke to her was when I was a young teen. But I think it might just be seeking out something to make myself feel more hurt, and I don't think I could deal with any more rejection. To bigger and better things. 8 marshmallows. I can't believe the Peters were too cowardly to even say anything to you. Will this whole situation make them ineligible for future placements? I would think there is a reporting structure and your personal assistant would be obligated to flag their file for this. OP answer. Doubt it. My personal assistant didn't even seem shocked by the situation as a whole, and I think my parents have framed it as us falling out to their social worker. Despite me making it clear that's not the case from my POV. Wife left me looking after my dying father, but she returned crawling after dad made me a millionaire in his bequest. Married for 8 years, I am a 36-year-old man with 2 children. I also am the sole son of my sick father. You know, my dad has been dealing with renal issues for many years. Unfortunately, his condition has gotten worse over the past 2 to 3 years and he now requires twice-weekly dialysis. He could drive on his own earlier, but during the past year he usually asked me to go with him. He is becoming weaker daily as well. I had developed a schedule for myself whereby I would be dialysing my father every time. I do not want to abandon him under this state by himself. He needs to go for dialysis 2 days a week, hence I scheduled Saturday and Wednesday. I have Saturday off from work, hence it is not a problem. My supervisor gave me permission to go early on Wednesday, and then I worked late into the night after dialysis to make up the missing hours. After 10 years of employment with this organization, my supervisor has viewed me as a dedicated and devoted worker, hence, giving this particular authorization was not really important to him. Still, the issue started at home with my 34-year-old wife Ail. She became irate when she learned that I will be on dialysis twice a week bringing my dad. She was not happy when I used to take him sometimes, but she never voiced her annoyance directly. She couldn't stop herself now that I had taken up the conscientious responsibility. She claimed that wasting my time on my father was useless as, whatever I did, he would never be impressed by me. Here's a bit of background to this then. My dad runs a merchandise company. He had obtained some reasonable wealth and was rather off. I was driven about something else while he wanted me to run his company. I was drawn to technology. Creating software and programming excited me. I thus pursued a software degree after school, whereas Dad wanted me to study administration or business. He was still good with that as long as I was ready to work for his business. But once I graduated, I started working for a well-known IT company. Dad objected to me working for someone else instead of carrying on his legacy. I stalled as he insisted on having me join his company. When Dad asked me one more time whether I wanted to join after my marriage, I answered no. Dad lost it and declared he would donate all of his fortune to charity and that I would not get a penny. I stayed exactly at my choice. You see, I was doing nicely even at that age. At 29 I purchased my own house and a car. Even without his fortune, I felt rather sure I could lead a reasonable existence. I explained to him I could create wealth on my own and I didn't need his money. Our relationship broke down after that. Mom died from heart arrest 5 years ago. For Dad, it was just terrible. You know, I left the house at 17 for college, then I found work and began living alone. Dad only had Mom as his friend. Losing her would be the most terrible thing he could go through. That is when our relationship was restored. I used to take my children to play with him and started paying regular visits to him. He finally left his company and handed it to a trust to run. Ail, my wife, never hung around my parents. Ail avoided visiting my mother while she was still living, claiming that she was overly intrusive in our life and that they did not get along. Ail started candidly berating my parents for being nasty and evil when my father declared he would take me off his will. She always intervened, claiming that it would damage our future, particularly our children's, so she stayed out of my connection with my parents. She was not ready to accept that our future, that of our children, was safe regardless of Dad's wealth. Now, considering the existing circumstances, Ail became agitated when she learned I would be accompanying Dad twice a week for dialysis. I tried first to explain to her that Dad only had me. Long ago he lost his parents. Although he has an elder brother, he lives on the opposite side of the city and hardly visits. Since Mom passed away, Dad has grown quite lonely. In this state, I cannot leave him. But my wife finds this difficult to grasp. She has lately made my life unpleasant. She comes up with some agenda every Saturday. Either deep cleaning, throwing a party at the house, outing the kids, or something as little as grocery shopping. She could schedule anything she wanted on Sundays, I said, since on Saturdays I have to pick Dad for dialysis. She then later chastises me for being late or missing them, yet she keeps with her plans. I have to dash to pick up my dad, drive him to the dialysis center, then drop him back home. I then get home to see Elle's sarcasm and outbursts. Not only on Saturdays, she also does the same on Wednesday evenings. Late in the evening or at night after dialysis, I had promised my supervisor that I would make up the missed work hours. Elle, though, always has a scheme to annoy me. She would leave the duty of our children to me almost every Wednesday night, meeting her relatives, catching up with long-lost friends, or going to some haphazard party. After a busy day at the dialysis center, I have to balance my work, prepare for the children, feed the smaller one and somehow finish my outstanding chores. My dad advised me several times to let him accompany the nurse to the center as he notices me always rushing and tensely staring at my watch. I drop him home and hardly wait a second before sprinting back. I ask him to be ready and wait outside before I come even when we are picking him up. Although Dad has a full-time nurse and caregiver to look after him, I still feel guilty about not spending time with him. His dwelling to the center takes 30 minutes of drive. I used to like talking to him during such drive in past times, remembering the better days. But with Aile's outbursts rising, all I can think about is running back home. To shorten the journey time, I most of the time am overspeeding my automobile in traffic, using shortcut lanes, and passing other cars. This is the only time I spend with Dad. Hence I don't want to damage or stop it by asking him to accompany the nurse. As a son, I too have some duties. Simply said, I cannot tolerate this woman anymore. Updated 1. It is simply growing worse daily. Not one stone is left unturned by my wife to discourage me from visiting my father. She makes the argument that it is a lost cause. Dad has already taken me out of his will and donated his riches to charity, hence there is no use in wasting time and effort for him. I am not sure I understand her. Do we act merely in line with profit and loss? What if someone's parents are impoverished or lack any fortune? Given little to contribute, do their children abandon them? I finally told her she wasn't going to inherit anything from her parents after listening to her outbursts for so many months. Why then does she visit her folks every now and then? She lost it at this, "Oh my God," then declared, "My parents accomplished a lot more than your selfish father. They helped me in many aspects. They are not like your father, who turned on you for not working for his company. You dare compare my parents to yours? My father would have never done that to me." This kind of confrontation happens virtually every Wednesday and Saturday when I get back from dialysis. It is not only a one-time occurrence at my house. With every incident, it gets more intense and ugly. She used to argue with me alone earlier, but right now I watch her screaming and yelling at me in front of the kids. Not only that, I have heard her disparaging my dad in front of our kids and using them against my dad. I intervened when I heard this, which resulted in still another nasty argument between us. For me, Aile's battles now become a ritual. I sense something is lacking on the days she doesn't fight, just for her to get more hostile the following day. Now I nearly gave up on her. I simply ignore her as though she doesn't exist. I don't yell back or answer her. Apart from what else ought I to do? I cannot give my father up to satisfy her. If he booted me out of his will, it makes no difference. He kicked me due of my own choice. I turned down his offer to work for his company, and he had to turn up his hard-earned company to a trust. It must have demoralized him rather severely. To my dad, that firm was like a baby. He had to donate it to someone else. Having offended him, he had every right to disown me. Sometimes I feel as though my hurting my dad is causing karma to bite me back. Dad, on the other hand, is growing frail. He requires assistance to step down to the automobile. He is hardly able to walk on his own. I used to ask him to drop him off outside the home so I could save time. But right now, I'm not bothered about being late. I enter to gently lead him to the car, then drop him off to rest soundly in his bed. He is also having dyspnea, so I walk him as slowly as he requires. I drive deliberately, avoiding overspeeds to maintain his heart rate steady. Getting home late now doesn't bother me. Rushing home was useless. If I have to deal with that awful woman, why not at least make Dad happy? My casual attitude has made things worse. Yesterday, Aile told me I had to decide between her dad or myself. Seeing his condition, it didn't seem like Dad had long left. I attempted to explain to her that Dad wasn't going to be with us forever. Her response was short. In that case, you need to make your choice carefully. Someone who is going to be with you forever or someone who is going to die soon. This was quite callous. You know what? I said to her. I pick my dad more wisely than you, who is so selfish and nasty to a dying man. She got ready and left her baggage. I also wanted some distance from her and she needed some time to calm off. I did not stop her. I am tending to the house, my kids, Dad, and my work while she is away. Still, I feel so calmed down and relieved. Actually, her absence helps me to relax. She sent divorce paperwork to me the day before yesterday. Though I was somewhat expecting it, I did not imagine it would happen so quickly. Though surprised, deep down I was glad and relieved. I merely signed the paperwork and returned them. I did not phone her. She obviously didn't want the kids, but surprisingly she didn't ask for custody of them. That was the one stipulation I worried about. She screamed back, "How could you just sign it without calling me and pleading with me?" When she got the documents. Funny, right? Her mother then grabbed the phone and yelled that I should have behaved like a man and attempted to calm my wife back into the marriage rather than merely signing the paperwork. It was funny. Why would I do that? I went along since she wanted a divorce. I could say, it was good for me, I got rid of her without a fuss. I also mocked her, pointing out she didn't want her children and even gave them up. She indicated I could have all my possessions, including my 2 children. She did not want any of it. Her mother also mentioned that Ail was still young and did not want children weighing on her shoulders. I answered, fine by me. Having my children around me makes me happy. Though it relieves me, I am concerned about my kids. They, especially the younger one, miss their mother. It's tough for me to handle all the obligations by myself when I'm at the office, but perhaps I'll be able to sail through this. Update 2. This will be a shorter update. I followed my kids to Dad's place. It's a fantastic idea, and I have to say, thanks to everyone for the amazing concept. It went exactly. All of us benefited from moving in with Dad. Dad brought my kids along, and they played with their grandfather. Why didn't Dad have a full-time caretaker ready to look after my kids for a payoff? The finest deal is someone to look after my kids under Dad's direction. Seeing Dad playing and laughing with my kids and them having fun with their grandfather makes me very happy. Ail saw not what was ahead. By divorcing me, she aimed to ruin my life. She believed I would not be able to manage all the obligations, looking after the kids, my dad, the house and business. But everything is just exactly as it should be. I am most sure laughing last. The divorce was the best thing ever, LOL. Update 3. The news is depressing. Dad died last week in sleep. After playing with my kids, he went to bed pleased and glad and never woke up again. The doctor said he passed away quietly. Dad was delighted after I moved in with him, according to the doctor, his nurse, and even his caregiver. This somewhat extended his lifetime. Before I moved in, he was already almost giving up. Losing your only parent is quite difficult, but I'm happy he could live the last few months of his life contentedly. Although my kids are quite depressed to lose him, Dad has taught them solid values. Grandpa used to urge them to embrace reality and go on. Life never pauses for anybody. Hearing such outstanding things from them makes me very proud. In this period of hopelessness, they are really my strength. One more startling news item, nevertheless, followed Dad's death. Dad's attorney got in touch with me and asked me to visit his office to unveil his intention. I responded it wasn't necessary. Dad had previously told me he had given all his fortune to the trust, so I was fine with that and advised the attorney he should move forward with the papers to transfer everything to them. Assuming it also applied to the charitable trust, I asked him whether I should leave Dad's house. Laughing at me, he instructed me to just drop over. The trust members were already present when I visited. The lawyer had also phoned them. I started crying when the attorney began to pursue the will. Actually, Dad had willed me as his heir. All his property, business and wealth was for me. Thinking he might have done it after I started looking after him, I questioned the lawyer whether this was done recently. The attorney grinned and stated the will was never changed. I was always his heir. I was in tears. My dad never left me. Perhaps he threatened to disown me so I might honor his business and heritage. Dad's attorney calmed me, but I was still crying. I stated it kills me inside since I hurt my dad all his life, but he always cared for me. The attorney claimed that Dad was really quite happy that I was ready to sacrifice family riches in order to follow my passion under his influence. Dad gave me much pride. The attorney indicated that for now I am the business's decision maker and that, should I so wish, I could remove the company from the trust and operate it myself. I could be doing that. I pursued whatever I wanted to accomplish and Dad subtly encouraged me. It is now my time to reimburse him. I'm considering reversing it from the trust and scaling it to the level Dad envisioned for his company to reach. Telling my kids about their grandfather's will when I got home, to be received once my children become 18, he has also bequeathed some of his fortune to them. We visited his tomb today bearing some flowers and rested in peace for some time. For me, this is a somewhat emotional stage. Update 4. You know how quickly ants swarm when they spot sugar candy? I started running Dad's company and other community service projects 1 month following his death. I first resigned from my employment and assumed running of the company. Then, since my kids and I elected to reside at my parents' place, I leased my house. I also desire not to leave this house since it preserves my childhood memories and they feel linked to their grandpa here. I received numerous guests at my house, long-lost relatives, acquaintances, and neighbors, after learning I had inherited the $1 million fortune of my father. Still, my ex-wife Al and her parents were the most unexpected guests. Sobbing, they came inside the house claiming they would have gone to the funeral but they didn't know about my father's death. Her parents then praised my dad in all the right ways. Al kissed the kids and wept over how much she missed them. If she missed them so much, I asked her, why did she not visit them during the past 7 or 8 months? She claimed to have gone to our house but found it locked. What a deception it is. I asked, weren't you concerned for your kids upon learning the house was locked? Did you not think it essential to get in touch and see whether the children were all right? She gave no response. Let us forget whatever has happened in the past, her parents urged next. The kids will be left by themselves in the house when I'm at work now that my father is dead. It would be better if we reconciled since they need a mother. At this advice, I laughed in their faces. When she left her children to me, they most needed her. The kids have become used to her absence now, hence I do not want her back into my life. She began to weep. Her parents left us by ourselves. She begged for reconciliation while holding my hands. She missed seeing the kids and claimed she loved me. Laughing I said, you know what? You cherish the fortune my dad left behind, not me. Here at my door you and your avaricious parents are here to drain off my money. Using those words for her parents is what they are, thus I have no regrets about it. During our divorce, she also called my dad unpleasant and avaricious. I could not have let this woman get 1 penny of my dad's hard-earned money. She became offended when I denigrated her parents. She stated till now she was begging me as she loved me, but now she would take what was rightly hers. She didn't ask for any alimony during the divorce, but now she wants half of my dad's fortune, rather, half of my wealth. She could do whatever she wanted, I told her. I'll destroy her but not pay her a penny. She fled after mistreating me. I explored this with my attorney regarding the potential. Her prospects were, he said, few. A year before I inherited anything, the divorce was settled. She couldn't get anything anyway since the kids were with me. He cautioned me, though, about having her spend time with the kids. She might control them, file for their custody, then later on demand money for their upkeep and all that. I would like to thank him most especially for this counsel. I will oversee their meetings. These days, I also spend a lot of time with the children helping them to deal with the loss so they won't rush to their mother for emotional support. Having taken over my dad's business allows me great freedom to balance my personal life and well-being. The kids and I are going to have a Bahamas holiday. Really, why not? They are due this extravagant trip. No, it has nothing to do with overspending Dad's fortune. I could have gone too, but I had to balance my job and Dad's care earlier and lacked the time. I wanted to take them out now that I could. Regarding Isle, she hasn't got in touch with me since her most recent trip. She is probably busy suing me from every lawyer's office, knocking on every one of them. Kicked out as a teen due to false rumors spread by my brother, my parents later see my success and demand money after abandoning me. Years later, when my parents noticed my accomplishment and demanded money after they left me, I was kicked out as a teen for false rumors passed by my brother. 28-year-old female with twin brother. My twin brother and I grew up getting somewhat different treatment from our parents. As the so-called black sheep, my parents really appeared convinced, for some reason, that my brother was destined for brilliance while I was more interested in sports or hanging out with friends than in academics. Their continuous comparisons demoralized me and Earl and damaged my self-esteem. I was treated like an afterthought when a child, having to watch my brother throw lavish birthday celebrations with friends. While I was never even allowed to bring guests back to our house, he frequently slept over with them. To be really honest, I hated every minute of my youth. My grandma seemed to be the only family member who really gave me any thought. She always brought my preferred chocolates and sometimes dropped a few bucks to me so I could treat myself later when she visited us. This obvious preference for my twin brother evolved over the years into emotional abuse aimed at me. My parents would publicly criticize my hobbies and academics. No matter how hard I tried, I could seem to satisfy their ideal of the perfect child. Though I excelled in athletics, they forbade me from engaging in extracurricular activities since they wanted me to focus exclusively on schoolwork, exactly as my brother. It was annoying, and as a little child I felt powerless. I grounded once again later in my sophomore year, This time the crime was having Snapchat on my phone. Apart from all teenagers my age, I had done absolutely nothing wrong, except I had downloaded this app to keep in touch with my buddies. But since my parents had prevented me from talking with my pals, this was a major offense and a betrayal of their trust, said my parents. They went batshit insane on me, dumped all of my stuff around the room, then removed the doors from their hinges and informed me I would have no privacy as long as I lived under their roof. Seeing my parents treat me this way, my identical brother made my life worse instead of helping me. Our parents' unfair behavior produced a poisonous surroundings that let him take advantage of the circumstances. He started lying about me, accusing me of things I never done so he might get away with everything. Should he steal something, he would easily point the finger on me and my parents, already inclined to view me negatively. His falsehoods were easily accepted. He would make fun of my appearance and belittle me in front of my schoolmates. Still, I had a large group of friends at school because I was friendly and open about forming relationships. But my twin, an introvert, felt uncomfortable and started to hate that I could interact with people. When no one came up for his birthday at our 14th birthday celebration, this jealously peaked. While in sharp contrast, my friends took me ice cream and I had an overall great day. I have no idea why his friends did that to him. This enraged my brother still more. My brother started spreading false accusations about me at school, presenting me as a spoilt child, in order for retribution. Since our parents liked him more, he misled everyone by saying I was physically mistreating him at home. I had no idea he went to such a terrible degree. He would punch himself, carefully causing injuries like a black eye or bruised shoulder, in order to create evidence. He would boldly enter school the next day showing the self-inflicted injuries as evidence of my claimed brutality and create stories. He would lie, claiming that his injuries were from innocent sports like football with pals, whenever our parents asked him about them. People started to trust his twisted view of events as the lies and his claimed black eyes gained momentum. Whispers soon spread and even my friends started to glance at me with mistrust. I first observed minute changes. People who used to converse with me in the halls suddenly started to fade. Group hangouts started to get fewer and more spaced apart invitations. People hesitated to be around the apparently spoilt girl accused of aggression, as if a switch had been turned off. I plucked the bravery one day to ask my former best buddy why our relationship had deteriorated. She talked about how my twin brother had been spreading gossip about me. She exposed the thorough lies he had told everyone, charging me of things I had never done. Hearing her say startled me. The sensation was one of mistrust mixed with incredulity, as though the ground under me had collapsed. Someone I grew up with, my brother, was fabricating stories about me, accusing me of doing things I would never have even considered. That was a devastating betrayal that left me with a knot in my gut and a weighty heart. The day I addressed my brother at school, he chose to ignore me. When I urged him to stop lying about me, he grinned at me and told me I deserved to rot alone. His falsehoods and actions were beginning to worry me, thus I found it difficult to express myself. Though I wanted to talk to my parents, I worried they would view my brother above me. Particularly considering that I had always been open to befriending others, the isolation pained. The lies driven by jealousy from my brother seemed to be destroying the relationships I had developed over years. Teachers too started to become caught in the rumors. It was a dreamlike sensation, as though I were living in a parallel universe in which the evil narrative woven by my twin eclipsed my actual self. The lies were influencing people's actual impressions of me, not only teenage chatter. They had evolved beyond simple gossip. The terrible news soon got to my principal, and suddenly my worst nightmare materialized. Along with our parents, the main called my brother and me straight into his office to go over these supposedly rumors. Heart thumping, I sat there as the principal insisted on the reality. Though I expected my brother would at last come clean, he doubled down on the lies. He told the principal straightforwardly that, indeed, the allegations were accurate and characterized me as a bully who roamed about physically assaulting him while our parents were not around. I found it hard to believe. My brother kept telling this twisted tale about how I was furious at him for getting more attention from our parents, and shock flooded over me. Though everything of it was lies, he stayed to his tale like glue. Hearing my brother's tale, my mother started to cry. She grabbed onto my brother if he were some sort of hero. Telling my brother that he was brave to speak up and that he would be ensuring nothing would ever happen to him, my dad sought to console him. That day, I tried to defend myself by begging the principal that everything was made up. Desperate to swim to the top, I felt as though I was drowning in a sea of accusations. Yet, my brother persisted in saying that I was this furious, aggressive person venting daily on him. As my mother clutched onto my brother, my tears kept flowing and I started to see accusing stares. It was like battling a wall of belief in my brother's invented narrative. Saying the school didn't accept bullying and that these were reasons to punish me, My principal chastised me severely. I begged him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, declaring he couldn't let it slip. Tears running down my face, I begged him to understand that I did nothing to help my brother. The main insisted that I would be suspended for 10 days so that others may learn from this never to bully anyone. It really hit me, and I started crying even more, almost asking him to think twice. Furious and ashamed of the overall state of affairs, my parents hauled me from the principal's office. I refused to go. They were not understanding what I intended to provide as my argument. We left the institution, my heart weighed with shame and frustration. Things changed dramatically when we arrived home. Out of the blue, my dad started packing my stuff. Startled, perplexed, I had no idea what was occurring. When my mother questioned him what he was doing, he simply yelled that he cannot allow my brother to live in the same house anymore. I begged my brother to give them the truth, almost on my knees, but he stayed frigid, unmoved by my tears. After finishing packing, my dad dumped the luggage into our foyer. Still pleading my dad not to kick me out, I grabbed to his legs. Like a dream coming to pass. A bully like me didn't deserve to dwell in his house, he told me, and he would ask his mother, my grandma, to come fetch me up should she so want. The planet seemed to have collapsed under my feet. Surrounded by my stuff strewn in the foyer, booted out from my own house, I stood there shocked. My grandmother did show up finally. She helped me get into the passenger side by gathering all my stuff and arranging it in the car. Before approaching my parents' front door, she checked to be sure I had on my seatbelt. She rang the doorbell, then started to shout at my dad for treating me this way when he opened it. She cautioned him sternly that she would not hesitate to engage the police or CPS should he ever approach me or try to get in touch once more, as what he had done to a child like me may eventually land him in prison. Trying to avoid responsibility, my mother said it was mine. But my grandmother wasn't feeling it at all. Emphasizing that I was only a young child who deserved not to be abused in such a merciless way, she stood her ground defending me. I had never felt such power in my life till then, from my grandmother. She trusted me rather than cowering to my parents as they thought. We finally left, my house the only place I had ever grown up in, behind us. It is impossible for me to adequately describe how intolerable the suffering I went through during that period. Though my grandma begged me to, I recall simply crying on the bed and not eating anything. She was likewise startled when I told her what my brother had done. She told me she thought my side of the story, and it made me glad at least one person had my back. The idea of going back to school was like stepping back into a lion's den once the 10 days of suspension ended. The faces of my students told volumes as I walked into the known hallways, judgment, murmurs, and sidelong glances. The weight of the unfounded charges hung in the air. My brother, meantime, deliberately disregarded me and behaved as though I didn't exist. A few people who saw him as the victim of my assaults and agreed his side of the story had grown friends with him. No matter how hard I attempted to present my side of the narrative to anyone, it was ignored. I was an outsider, labeled unfairly and carried around like a shadow wherever I went. The classroom, the cafeteria, the hallways, the eyes that locked with mine were contemptuous and mistrustful. I started to go alone. I would head down, show up for every class, have lunch by myself in the cafeteria, and head straight home. I had no friends, and it seemed as though everyone just didn't want me there. My parents never once phoned to see how I was doing throughout all this. My grandma would tell me again and over that life would finally be good and that this was not my fault. Having decent marks when I finished from high school, I was looking forward to college, where maybe I would have a better life. I first felt what freedom felt like only when I left for college. Nobody was monitoring my shoulders, none was comparing my marks, and none was trying to challenge me, for the first time. I ran into like-minded folks and developed friendships with them. Though my family and peers had caused emotional and physical scars over the years, I focused on putting all behind me and savoring this collegiate experience as much as I could. It was around this period that I developed my flair for content writing. Though I had always wanted to be a writer, I chose to give up on my ambition as I wasn't sure whether it would be long-term viable. But I decided to start freelancing and writing in order to pick some side money. Signing up on several freelancing platforms helped me land work from well-known companies. I began gradually compiling a portfolio of my works this way. I kept this side project throughout college and never approached my parents for one penny. Instead of landing a corporate job upon my college graduation, I discovered I could work full-time in content writing. The several clients and long-term professional ties I had with them helped them to rope me into several initiatives of theirs, thereby enabling me to be doing rather well. Having a respectable freelancing profession let me travel the globe as a digital nomad in addition to make me financially independent. Though it was certainly not easy, traveling helped me heal from past. I grabbed as much as I could and gambled on myself. I have seen so much of the globe throughout the years, yet I still have so much to see. My grandma was the only member of my family I thought about all through all this. I really loved her. When I moved out, Mother was quite depressed, yet she knew I had to be independent on my own. Though I have a busy schedule, I would make it a point to be with her whenever I could. On the weekends, I would go see her, usually sitting on the porch or enjoying meals together, lost in talks ranging from childhood stories to more current events. On weekends, I would spend whole days assisting Mom with housework or taking her for a leisurely stroll to the neighborhood park. Lately, I finished one of the most significant assignments of my career. Though I cannot name the brand, I was quite fortunate to create blogs and product descriptions for them. Following the assignment, I asked the team I collaborated with to offer me favorable feedback on my website, which they were more than glad to do. Knowing working with this brand was a big event, so I grabbed screenshots of some of their evaluations to publish on Instagram. Many additional content creators, as predicted, contacted me to celebrate my professional achievement and even shared my tale to assist in dissemination. This is how I began receiving messages from random people needing assistance with their websites. Some of my family also spotted this and contacted out to congrats me. Eventually, the principal of my college got in touch. Seeing that I was doing so well, he had gotten in touch with me and asked me to visit college for a lecture to discuss career paths as a content writer to students. Though I struggle with public speaking, I was really anxious, so I decided to take a chance and consented. My life seemed to have gone full circle when I stood before expectant faces imparting my knowledge and views. In my lecture, I discussed the difficulties I encountered and how I persevered in spite of many demanding days. Empowering others and helping the writers' community flourish was, quite honestly, a really rewarding experience. As individuals related to several of my clips, they began to go popular on Facebook groups. Being at last appreciated for my effort felt fantastic. I received an invitation to speak on a local news station last week. The presentation highlighted the advantages of content writing, and they asked me to share with their viewers my path and observations. Though a little anxious, the chance excited me. I discussed my experiences, the value of client feedback, and how a little thank you note might create amazing possibilities during the show. The chance to inspire more people in the profession and appeal to a larger audience humbles and excites me. I also posted some of these snippets on Instagram when it eventually aired, as I felt honored to be asked to a TV show. My cousins and family first began learning about my work performance this way. You see, my parents had no knowledge that I was working with well-known businesses and receiving invites to TV shows, as they never discussed me with anybody. This is how rapidly information got out inside my family. I suppose this TV interview must have at last made sense to my parents. A few days later, I was working on another job and found my phone quiet. When I checked my phone after finishing my work, I found 6 missed calls from my mother. Surprised her name on my phone truly startled me, since it had been a long time since she had phoned me. After all those years of quiet, I couldn't understand why she was phoning. I hesitated, then called her back, and she picked up right away. When I asked her if everything was good, my mother started praising me. Usually seated right there with Mom, my dad also joined in the discourse. He began asking about my life and well-being, and I responded without much thinking. It wasn't odd until they started asking how much I was making these days. My dad answered that we were family, thus I shouldn't be shy sharing with them my salary, since it is none of their concern. I assured him I was doing financially really well. Hearing this, my mother started to explain how difficult their life was these days. My brows wrinkled with mistrust. Here is essentially our conversation's general flow. Mom, we have been wishing to remodel the house for some time. We are retired now. Though we have no savings left, its shape is not ideal. Me, okay. Mom, we have hope since your success. Having seen your TV interview today, we reasoned perhaps you could assist us by covering the renovations costs. Dad, we are family first of all. You should not hesitate to forward some of your income to us. We truly need your assistance. Me, are you teasing me? Having not even spoken with you for years, why are you requesting money? While I appreciate the congrats, I am not going to assist you in any capacity. I wonder what motivated you to get in touch to me. Hearing this, my mother began to remark how I should have been appreciative and that I should have helped them as family. My dad also said that this was the least I could do, since my parents deserved to be looked for. I wanted to give them some of my thinking, since I was so offended at this. I thought suddenly of something. Rather than merely fighting with them, I chose to teach them a lesson for lifetime, since mistreating me all those years ago caused them to leech off me. I informed my parents I would be ready to assist them should they agree to my requests solely. My dad asked me, perplexingly, what they were. I immediately set out my demand. If they sought my assistance, they had to openly acknowledge in front of our family and friends that my brother was the brains behind the nasty allegations damaging my name. Believing their lies and manipulation would help them to humiliate my brother the same way they had humiliated me before everyone. I wanted them to own their deeds and admit the suffering they had caused. Hearing my impossible condition, my dad started to doubt the need of such an admittance. I stood my ground even though my mother informed me that this was all pretty pointless and that we could have a private conversation apart from others. This condition was non-negotiable. That was what any help they sought for in the future required. My dad spoke up as the tension grew, stressing his part as my father and underlining that it was my obligation to assist my needy family. Emphasizing the years they had spent raising me, my mom, in a last-ditch effort, urged me to act morally and assist them. Their abrupt appeal struck me as ironic. I reminded them of the past, of the fact they had kicked me out, and of the fact my grandmother had reared me, not they. They were increasingly restless, but I firmly reminded them that if they wanted to approach me and ask for my financial help going forward, then the truth had to be admitted publicly and my brother had to pay repercussions for his deeds. My folks have been calling me non-stop since our chat, but I'm avoiding their calls. Even phoning them back that day makes me regretful. If I did nothing at all to assist my parents, would I really be in the wrong? Update 1. Since I last told my tale a week ago, things have been a whirl. And the help and encouragement I have been getting from everyone has been deluging. Knowing that I'm not alone at this period makes one hopeful. After all they have gone through, I am happy everyone feels I should not interact with my parents or even think about helping them out. I knew it was quite almost impossible for them to do, hence I even set them such a condition. Though they might have discovered by now that it was all his lies, I know they will never put my brother through what they put me through. They love him too much. After my parents once more tried to get in touch with me today, my brother sent me a nasty text message. I ignored their calls. He composed this. Hey sis, I can tell you every day without you in my life has been fantastic. It's been a long time since I seen you. Mom and dad contacted you, from what I heard, and you gave them an insane directive. You know, they never are going to follow through on it. They will never do anything to damage me, and they most obviously never loved you. Although I did lie about you 15 years ago, it has been a long time since then, hence cease being so self-serving and attempt to let go from the past. You are childless and single anyway. Hence why would you not want to assist them with house repairs and renovations? Act moral and be a better daughter. Seeing the letter felt as though it were a stab to the chest. His lack of empathy was evident in the boldness to discount the hardships I had gone through and the conditions I had established. Emphasizing my single and childless status, the effort to guilt-trip me added still another degree of insensitivity. Not only was his implication that I should put their needs ahead of my own well-being objectionable, but it also underlined how little he considered me. Frustrated and driven by a deep need for justice, I determined it was time to intervene and expose the truth buried for too long. Sitting down to send an email to my parents and close relatives, I shared the terrible facts of my life and the unfair treatment I had suffered in my family house. In the email, I detailed how my parents treated me differently from my twin brother and the rigorous and repressive surroundings I had lived under. The email also explored the damaging and wholly false rumor my brother had disseminated about me in school, which had resulted in serious repercussions and damaged my name. I wrote on how my parents had kicked me out to the curb and how, had it not been for my grandma, by now I may have been dead in the streets. I encouraged everyone to read a note my brother had emailed toward the end. I included a screen grab showing him owning to lying about me. It was an unambiguous confession meant to reveal the lies that had lasted far too long. Just an hour ago, I wrote the email. Once my parents and brother see it, all hell will explode. I will let you know nextwise on how my family responds to my email. Update 2. My last update was 1 month ago, and as you might imagine, a lot of things have transpired this month. My family burst upon getting the email. Relatives who were earlier ignorant of the degree of the favoritism and emotional abuse have criticized my parents. Many of the family members contacted me apologizing for not being there for me and stating they had no idea about all this. I decided to contact a lawyer after my brother and dad sent me a torrent of text messages beginning to get increasingly violent and nasty. She sent a notice of cease and desist. It essentially advised them not to get in touch with me anymore and that, should they do, they would suffer severe legal repercussions. Given they ceased getting in touch, I suppose this must have terrified them straight. My grandmother supports me 100% since she believes I have done the right thing by informing everyone what occurred. She is the only person that counts to me, hence I'm happy she has my back. Update 3. 2 months apart have gone between my last update. For now, I am glad to say that all in my life is running smoothly. Professionally, my article writing company has been doing great. The offers to present at podcasts and seminars keep coming in, therefore confirming my reputation as a valued professional in my field of work. I am now as near to my grandmother as ever. Recently I took a 1-week vacation from work so I could spend some time with her. These days she enjoys gardening and taught me a lot about different herbs and flowers in her yard. My best and most treasured memories are the times I spend with her, meal sharing, deep talks, or just hanging around. I'm glad my family is keeping away from me since they haven't contacted me since the letter my attorney sent them. Since I personally started attending therapy, hopefully I can work on mending myself. Right now I believe this will be the last update.